Hi, how are you today? Okay, it's been a minute. I need to figure out my life, get a routine back together, organize everything. But we're working on shit. Um, so basically, I haven't updated you guys on my hair care shit in about a month, really, except for to say, hey, I'm gonna update you when I can. Uh, so we're gonna try to catch up on like a month of shit today with that. And I got a lot of sources that I've been reviewing also, so we're gonna go over that and my notes on everything I've read. Um, and then we're also gonna look at two different videos. We're gonna compare the approaches Common Thread Collective has to education to Depesh Mandalia, and we're just gonna have time today, I think, for one video from each person, but I don't want you to look at the single video if you're not familiar with them as a reflection of all that they teach, because there's so much more to each of them than that. But I'm going to give my opinion on that as we go into it also, because I have used services from both people. So I want to talk about that as well. And basically, we'll just go over, like what I like about each one and who I think each one would be best for if you're considering investing your resources into either of them. Um, and so, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and roll the intro and shit, and then we'll get into the hair routine, and then we'll do Common Thread Collective, and then Depeche Mandalia, I think. And that's Depesh. The captioner did not get that. Okay, so it's Depesh. Okay, better. Mandalia. Okay, there we go. All right, just had to get that out there. And Common Thread Collective, which is also, they have another program called Your Admission Co. Okay. Hi, my name is Lexi, also known as and doing business as Deaf Child. In 2022, my company was listed as number 14 Best Louisiana Events Companies and Startups. I have been doing business as Deaf Child since 2013. I have my Bachelor of Science in Music Industry Studies and Business Administration, and deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. And I've got about 50 certifications in marketing and sales that you can find at noladeafchild.com. I really feel like I need new intros and outro stuff. And I was getting tired of that shit like a couple months ago. But with stuff coming up, I haven't had time to make new ones yet. But I'm totally gonna try and at least get a new outro out soon and redo that. Um, my mom said that she watches all of my live streams. So, hey mom, I love you. And if you watch this, will you text me and tell me what am I wearing right now? So I'm like, yeah, this bitch is watching this. Wait, is that weird? You don't gotta do that. I don't know why I said that. Okay, anyway, but fucking, how you already know if you've been watching my hair journey routine shit that I got a lot of hair routine stuff, and I added even more sources. I don't remember how many sources I've added between May and now, but I feel like it's 100. I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but my mind feels like I read 100 things at least, probably. Um, so I know for a fact since then that all of the hair anatomy stuff is new. The hair growth stuff is new. I can't remember if the hair loss stuff was already there or not. I know that the hair oil stuff is new here. I think the hair type was already there. Um, and scalp care is new. And I think everything else was already there. So I got a bunch of new sources, and I'm gonna link those in the comments after this bitch ends because it won't let me fucking comment before. But it's too much shit to go into the description, so whatever. So yeah, a lot of new sources that's up in there, And fucking, I'm gonna do Julie's other two hair routines next. I'm gonna try those out just for heatless styling purposes. That's why I like trying those out. But in general, I think that I found my groove with the day to day. So I'm gonna go over the updates from June and July, and then we'll just look over these updates I made in the product list and shit like that too. Fucking so we last ended around May 28th, so I'm not gonna even go back there. But in June, some shit happened. I was basically testing my after shower routine for that shit. Um, and when all of this started, I was struggling with hair loss, struggling with itchy scalp, struggling with. I never liked the way my hair looked because I never felt like it was healthy. I always felt like my hair could be very oily up top and then very dry at the bottom. And I also, when I started this, at that point I hadn't gotten my hair cut in like a year, so I had a bunch of dead ends and split ends too, and all of that combined made me feel really bad about my hair, and particularly with the hair loss because my hair was really really thinning. Um, and so fucking, you know, I've been trying to work on that, all of that, fucking, but so we've been working with after shower routines, kind of testing the order of products I'm adding, and whether or not I'm using a microfiber towel, and then when am I using the microfiber towel, because before I was putting my microfiber towel, like naturally what I do is just put my microfiber towel on itself, but then when I'm testing Julie's routine, she has me leave my hair sopping wet, then put product on, then put the microfiber towel on. But if I was doing it myself, I would do microfiber towel until mostly dry and then products after and then air dry rest of the way. So testing that happened in between the end of May and the beginning of June. And I think I'm gonna do, like, whenever I do Julie's routine, yeah, my hair comes out a bit wavier and curlier with a heatless style option. But with my sensory issues, I kind of prefer the way I naturally go and do it. So I think I'm just gonna, like, use her method when I want to put that effort in for perhaps a heatless style, but then mine for my day to day. Um, and that's kind of the conclusion I came through in June. And then, but from all of that, I really feel like the rest of my hair has been looking very healthy over June. But I was still struggling with scalp issues. So by the beginning of July, I was really obsessed with researching and looking into scalp care shit. And fucking, so from that, the main things that I got from like the resources, were like Curl Smith suggested not leaving oil on my scalp. I'm doing pre oils on my scalp only because of harmful buildup or whatever that can exacerbate inflammation and shit like that. I don't know about shit. I'm just saying what I read. Um, and fucking so I've been testing like no oil after shower and stuff like that. Um, and then the American Dermatology Association said that washing your hair more often, if you are struggling with dry scalp or flakes, could be a good thing because you might have too much oil. My fucking computer wants to restart. Whatever. I guess I'll do that. That's the other computer, not this one. Okay, sorry. Fucking. But then I've also been reading from a few other sources the last couple of days, actually. From ProTerra, they're saying like for that oils are more effective on clean hair, so not to use it. Also, not to use oil or cream products because they can weigh down hair onto a hair, and they suggest subbing out with foam or serum if it's left in the hair, um, and to make sure it's compatible with your hair type and shit like that. And then Curlsmith says that should be a use, not I think. Yeah, that should be used. That's a typo. Curlsmith says that to learn about the oils that can seal or lock moisture in. And I didn't know there was a fucking difference before that. And so the moisture versus seal sources, literally between yesterday and today, I read all of those. Um, but yeah, so it was saying like you need water or leave-in or curl cream before oils to hydrate the hair, and then different oils can either add moisture or seal the moisture in. And then whether or not you do your liquid cream oil or liquid oil cream will vary by your hair type. Um, and they suggested liquid oil cream for medium porosity hair to help retain moisture. I have been using liquid cream oil because I feel like I have a lower medium porosity and I like the way that felt on my hair better, but I'm thinking about testing it again just cuz why the fuck not? But and the source also says that liquid cream oil reduces the risk of weighing down hair, which is why I think it's best for me. Um, and then in how to apply air oil, am I saying that right? Hair oil, fuck. Did I say air oil? Hair oil, shit. Skincraft says water forms a layer on your hair and scalp that doesn't allow oil to pass through. So applying oil to wet hair will cause the water to repel the hair. And it also says that different hair types require oil for different amounts of time, but more than one day is a bad idea. And now if your hair is sweaty and too dirty, then it won't get the benefits of the oil if you're pre-oiling it. And then according to Curly Bell, moisturizing oils versus sealing, you use moisturizing first to hydrate, and then you use sealing to lock it in. And so from that, I actually haven't even tried this yet, but from these thoughts and these sources, today I came to this plan to test a new um, way or order that to use my own fucking hair oils. So like, I'm gonna have my hair oils based on whether or not I rinse it out or leave it in. So certain hair oils that are better for me to rinse out according to what I've researched, I'm going to be doing those for my pre-oils, and then the leave-in ones, I'll leave those in sometimes too, is what I'm thinking. And then the argan finishing spray, I'm just going to use that when I go out. So that's how I came to the current plan I'm going to be testing next. And I'm testing these orders based on moisturizing versus sealing. And yeah, so fucking that's how we got here. And then in my product list, I got my haircut again yesterday. And so when I got my haircut, I asked my hairstylist, and that's Amanda Carlton at 101 Salon. Shit, I can't speak. 121 Salon. What the fuck did I say saloon? Um, fucking she fucking told me she'd been using Moroccan oil extra volume shampoo and conditioner for fine and medium hair on me. I really like that shit when she puts it on my hair. Fucking, but that shit's expensive as fuck. So I've never purchased that shit personally. But I went ahead and put that shit in my product source list because both of the times I used it on me, I just like when you walk away, you just like you feel like you're skipping through a field of flowers or some shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you feel great. So yeah, that shit's up in there. Um, and I put my little oil plan up in this bitch, and fucking I kind of just adjusted how I was organizing and tracking and color coding the products that I use in my regular routine. And I also added, whether or not there's brush protection on the products. And did I add something else? I can't remember. I think oh yes, I added whether or not the oils were moisturizing or sealing based on Googling what was in the oils. As well to this. So yeah, that's how I came up with my plan and all of that. And I think that's what I'm missing in my routine to make sure I have a healthier scalp with everything is understanding which oils to be using, when to use the oils, how often, and things like that, and making sure I'm on a good hair wash routine. I think if I just keep up the routine and stay on and figure that balance out for my hair and head type, I'll be good with a healthier scalp, is what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm working on. And in my product and oil guide, I think I just added fucking whether or not there's heat brush protection in here as well. Fucking, muy importante to me. So, yeah, you gotta learn how to take care of your shit. So, that's where I'm at. And did I add anything to here? I can't remember. Heat brush protection. Yep, I think I added that everywhere. Um, I just updated this today, so let's change that date. So yeah, now we're all up to speed. This is everything with the hair care journal. Um, and yeah, we're fucking here now. So all of the news sources on hair care are gonna link that shit in the comments after this shit fucking ends. So yeah, now I want to move on to the star of tonight's show, the marketing. What are we really here for? So I want to talk about Common Thread Collective and Depesh Mandalia. So, with Common Thread Collective, I have had access to one of their services called Your Admission Co. So, I've had access to both training materials for everything they both put out between 2018 and 2021 through an advertising agency that I was a growth analyst for. So I had access to all of their trainings from that. And that is how I found out about them and how I began learning from them, using their services and actually implementing their techniques in real time. Um, and then after I ended up leaving that situation, I ended up joining Depesh Mandalia's Facebook group, and he just changed the name of it. So I can't fucking remember right now what the fuck it's called. It used to be something about um ad experts and academy or something. I don't remember what the fuck he's called. But I'm in his Facebook group. I just don't remember the name of it. I will link that in the description after the live stream ends. Though I'll go find it. And I am also on both of their email lists. With Depesh Mandalia, I have read his BPM method strategy in book and his CBO. Um, and then with Common Thread Collective, for 1 week, I think it was 2021 or 2022. I can't remember the year. Um, for like a week in the spring, they did this thing where you signed up for your admission co and you had full access for a week for free, for a free trial in order to, close some leads from that. And it's a limited time offer, and you only have a limited time to sign up for it as well. And so I did that as well. And so from both of those avenues, I have also received further education from them beyond what I originally accessed them for, which was through that prior marketing agency that I was working with previously for just a little bit. Um, just two shakes of a lamb's tail. Fucking. Now I'm thinking about job longevity on my part. Hmm. It's interesting because some places I have stayed at for a really long time. I worked at some places for years. Great relationships. And some places, even if I didn't work there that long, I still have really good relationships with the people I was working with. And in some places, it's like I was there for a second, dipped real quick, like bye. You know what I'm saying? So I've been reflecting on all of that. So I think my work history is interesting. On certain levels, I see where I need to be improving, and on other levels, I'm glad I didn't keep myself in situations that weren't good for me. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. But anyway, I don't know how I got there. Fucking, is that Nickelodeon? Okay, so Common Thread Collective, I figured we'd look at their most popular videos just to kind of see what are they both getting the most traction for at this time. So you can kind of compare and contrast yourself. And I'm also going to discuss with you guys, like, a little bit real quick, why I think each one is beneficial for different people. So for me, with the way I process information, and everybody's brain is different. So how you process information may impact who is a better system for you to go with, on top of what service do you offer? What is it that you do? So, based on what I've been exposed to, I personally do think that Common Thread Collective is best suited for either people who are specifically e-commerce business owners or marketing e-commerce, or marketing agencies focused on e-commerce. So everything they do, I feel, is the strategies you're gonna get are best implemented for understanding how to manage all of the data that can come with understanding processing um, e-commerce in terms of products, in terms of product variations, SKUs, and setting up funnels for these offers and managing that data in a scalable way. And then Depesh Mandalia, I really think he is good for anyone, who for e-commerce too, but I really think he's even better and best for people focused on service and full funnel growth, and his strategies are more easily applicable to um, people who don't necessarily have a product that they sell but offer um, a non-tangible thing to somebody. And everything he does is also can be, and a lot of it is specifically for e-commerce. It's not for that, it is for e-commerce, but because, like, the biggest difference for me is, like, Common Thread Collective, what they're gonna do is teach you how to set up everything step by step as if you've never ran an ad before. They're gonna explain the basics for you. They're gonna teach you the foundations of what do these numbers mean? What do these acronyms mean? How do you use these platforms? And the Depesh does that too, but he really gets deeper, deeper, deeper into testing, scaling, stabilizing, strategizing, and getting deeper into behavioral actions with the funnel. And both of them are really, really good for understanding how to move people through your sales funnel and how to send very specific messages to people based on the actions that they have taken with you. And these are all concepts that I had never understood before trying to run ads. Like, I just happened to know some bitches who wanted a fucking party, and so that was how I built my fucking career. You know what the fuck I mean? Like, I didn't actually understand how to run a damn ad 5, 10 years ago. I just knew how to fucking party, and I knew if I promoted something, some bitches would show up and fucking party with me. You know what the fucking mean? Like, that's what the fuck I did. That's how I got my fucking start. And it wasn't until, like, after I left that scene entirely and had to rebuild my business, I was like, oh shit, wait, how the fuck do you actually promote something to strangers? And that was the thing. The reason I had qualified buyers was that was a hot audience. They all knew me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so when you have to understand how to build a new audience from scratch, that's what you need these bitches for. You know what the fuck I mean? Or me. Technically, I'm supposed to be, like, promoting myself and saying, like, yeah, I do this shit too. But that's not what I'm talking about for the topic of this live stream. I'm reviewing the people that I was able to receive the information I needed in order to actually know how to market myself as a business person. So that's why we're doing this business review on their content today. So fucking yeah, I know, man. It's been like fucking 25 minutes of this damn live stream, and I haven't even fucking shown their fucking shit yet. But we're actually gonna fucking do that now. So fucking Common Thread Collective. If you look at their most popular videos, we see that they're being really getting traction for pricing right now. They're getting traction for verification of the domain in Facebook Business Manager, um, a unique full funnel Facebook campaign structure, um, media buying strategy for Facebook. This stands for lifetime value, customer acquisition, cohort analysis. And what this means right here is they're showing you a cohort just means a section of people, a group of people. So they're looking at the people interacting with you by lifetime value is how much do they expect from them to buy from you in their lifetime versus customer acquisition is how much did it cost you to obtain that customer. So these are the types of things that they get you thinking of, as well as here they even have one on current meta best practices. So they're really good for making sure that you're on top of current trends in the industry, as well as getting a base understanding for if you've never done this shit before, what the fuck do you do and how do you do it so you're not wasting your fucking money. Um, so with that being said, let's get into pricing. We're gonna watch and react to this pricing video today.
Welcome back to another episode.
Put on some captions to get in theater mode. Alright, let's see. Mute myself. Let's do this fucking shit.
Of Bridges, where we are building a bridge between marketing and finance, helping turn tactical marketing into financial outcomes by educating two sides of two different worlds on how they can find common ground. And today we're discussing a topic that may be the perfect overlap between marketing and finance, and that is pricing. We are going to be looking at how both sides can use pricing as a tool in their tool belt to help deliver better business outcomes. And as always, we're brought to you by Wayflyer and Final Loop, two incredible partners that have been a sponsor of this series since the very beginning and helping to educate our industry on the relationship between these critical components of business. So let's dive in. Today, we're talking pricing. For many years, I was a big fan of the Tim Ferriss.
So, I've never seen like this video before. One thing I think is interesting if you think about it. So, this is a video where they have sponsors and they have people paying them to sponsor their shit on a video or that they're using for lead generation. So if you look at the way that they're able to monetize, like a lot of people when they're doing lead generation, they're still begging for the leads. Like they're not able to get sponsorships for their own lead generation. You know what the fuck I mean? Like that's how next level they are. Like they're not just begging using content to generate leads. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, not. I mean, I guess when I say begging for leads, that's me self-projecting how I can feel like, or how it can feel in general. I think other people feel like this too. How it can feel whenever you are basically creating content with the hopes of someone buying from you. You know, I made a little meme where it's like, got the Trixie from Fairly Odd Parents and Timmy from Fairly Odd Parents, and Trixie's like grabbing Timmy by the shirt, and she's like, "Feed me and tell me I'm pretty." And that's how marketing feels in a nutshell. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how any sales or marketing position, I feel like, can feel if you take it down to the base and security. So the way that they capitalize on their own lead generation, I think is actually pretty smart and something that like I hope to get to, and it's like a tactic and a strategy in the way they do it. I think, you know, if you have a way to implement it for yourself, I think it's a good idea. All right, sorry, enough of that. Let's keep going.
Ferris podcast. And if you've ever listened to one of Tim's podcasts, you know that for a long time, there was a common question that he would ask every guest at the end of each episode. And that question was, if you could put a billboard with any message anywhere in the world, where would it be and what would that message say? And one answer that stuck with me for many years was from Mark Andreessen. And Mark, when asked the question, said immediately, everywhere in San Francisco, I would put this billboard right here. It would say, raise prices. And the point that Mark was making is that he believed that, one, most software businesses were not actually operating at a marginal value at which they could ever make money or build a sustainable business at the price that they were selling at.
So, like, on one level, I can totally understand when it comes to how freelancers and business owners, particularly startups, can undervalue their offer and they're not be sustainable simply because they never raise their prices to charge the amount of money they need to charge to actually have a profitable business. I get that level. Like, I know artists, I know people who are selling their work for $10, $15 an hour, and it's not enough for them to make a living. They really need to be charging 25, 30, 40 an hour, 50 an hour to make a living. And I'm not trying to be like, they need to make a living. That's cost of living, dude. Fucking so yeah, like on one level I get the concept raise prices, that's good. But on another level, sometimes with the way that people can word this concept, it feels like you're advocating for, raised prices, but are you following through with equal compensation to accommodate that? Like, what's the point of raising prices when we can't afford that shit? So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know that this isn't where they're going with that, but it's where my mind goes when I see this idea, you know? But let's see what they have to say. Let's see what they have to say.
And two, they had not really tested the price elasticity of demand. In other words, they were not clear on the relationship between the price of their product and the demand for the product itself, such that they can maximize the marginal value of sale. And today we're going to explore.
One thing that I wish that they would do is in some of these cases, I think it would be nice if they use some simple vernacular. You know what I mean? Like, they're not saying, yeah, these bitches are trying to see how much fucking money they can get. They're over here like, yeah, maximize the marginal value of sale. But it means the same fucking thing. You know what the fuck I mean? Um, so that's what I'm here for, though. I'm just here to let you know they're just using big words for no damn reason. There's some simple shit you can say for this shit, all right? And it means the same fucking thing, okay? Um, so look, when in doubt, when you're thinking of business, you want to think about how does someone who sell weed profitably. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your ganja man can understand business, so can you. Okie dokie.
With this idea, the price elasticity of demand, and understand how pricing is a lever that dramatically affects a business's ability to produce profit, and how marketing and finance both have a role to play in thinking about how we can use price more dynamically to better achieve business results. And to start, to highlight just how important a lever this is, if we go back all the way to the beginning of our very first episodes in this series, we talked about this idea of the perfect P&L. And we talk about 4-quarter accounting, this idea that your profit and loss statement is broken up into 4 distinct categories: cost of delivery, CAC, OPEX, and profit. But if we were to take each of those sections and decompose them into their component parts, one of the things that we would notice about cost of delivery is that oftentimes most of the focus goes to thinking about the cost of the product. Very little conversation actually goes to the price. And the reality is that the easiest and simplest way to actually improve your gross margin is to simply increase the price. But there's also another counter signal within that also has an adverse effect on margin that marketers can often take and use at their disposal in a way that impacts negatively the planned gross margin that the finance team or product development team had in mind initially. And that's around the discount rate.
Okay. So what they were saying with pricing at the beginning, I forgot this dude's name. Fucking but what he was saying with pricing, like different factors, something that I've explained before with the way I price my services is, and how I try to explain to others how they can better articulate what goes into their pricing, is a balance of market based, value based, and cost based pricing. So, market based pricing is whenever you compare your price to what else is on the market. And so you say, if you go anywhere else, this is what you're going to pay for this. Value based pricing is when you do your pricing based on the value that you are putting into it that they would not be able to receive by going anywhere else. And cost based pricing is the costs when you account for all the costs that go into factoring the creation of your offer. And so, utilizing a balance of those three ideologies is how I come to numbers for me that provide me with the return on ad spend that I'm looking for. Um, so he's saying when people aren't able to hit those numbers with pricing, what they do is discount. And a lot of times when people are discounting, um, they're more likely to factor in the cost of the item than the value of the pricing, if that makes sense in that relationship. If I'm understanding what he's saying right in my head. But that's what I took from it. Shit. I don't fucking know, man. I'm just me. Alright, here we go. Let's watch this shit.
And if we look in particular, this moment in time in our e-commerce industry, you'll see this graph here. This is a graph of the average discount rate in the year 2023 for the month of March versus the average discount rate in 2024 in the month of March. And this reflects an ongoing trend that we see in the e-commerce business where the average discount rate is going up over time. Now, if we think about the implication of this, is it has a hidden effect on the gross margin of brands. Whereas if we were to just pull in a 4-quarter accounting table back in episode 1, those 4 sections with cost of delivery, cost of acquisition, operating expenses, and profit, we might see that the cost of delivery appears to be up in this scenario. But in reality, the cost of the product may not have changed at all. What simply changed was the discount. And we talk about how important it is to break out the composition of that revenue to understand these trends over time. But what this is telling us is something about price as a lever for customers in this moment. And it reflects that in every different market environment, that the price elasticity of demand changes. We know there are ongoing narratives in our world about inflation and customers' desire to have a discount relative to what is an experientially consistent increase in price over time. It's not surprising that right now, that relationship between price and demand is changing. And what I want this to highlight is that it is really important to understand that the idea that there would be one price for every variable unit that you have as a business for the entire history of your business is highly unlikely. And that we should begin to embrace price as a more dynamic component of our business in lots of different directions relative to the surrounding market factors. So to go into this topic today, we're going back to old school economics. If you took Econ 101, this is going to be revisiting some of these principles for you, but it's to remind ourselves as marketers about the effects that drive the relationship with customers and price. And to start, we're going to use this graph, which is known as the price elasticity of demand graph. And we're going to discuss this idea, the elasticity of price.
So I used to watch Khan Academy shit a lot. I still will watch it every now and then. Looks like Khan Academy. But why does this feel like a fucking why does this feel like I'm fucking watching like the marketing version of Khan Academy right here. Like, y'all need to sync up. They even sound alike. Ah, fuck. Ah, my old password. I was trying to log in as my everything. You know what? Fuck it. I'll figure that shit out later. Um, fuck it. That's unfortunate for me. I'll have to figure it out. But anyway, fucking, yeah. So, fucking Khan Academy. This is what the fuck they sound like. God damn it. There's so many goddamn resetting. I don't remember shit. I'll figure that shit out later. But they got a lot of good shit on here. And the only reason I want to even look at my account because then you can see. But yeah, so fucking all of this shit I really like to go and look through, particularly like the math and the science stuff, because to be honest, I don't really feel like I got the best education in a lot of math. And there's one science teacher I had who I feel like she did a really good job, my junior and senior year. But I don't think I had the best science experience my freshman and freshman year wasn't that bad, but sophomore year was like, what the fuck, man? Chemistry didn't do shit, man. But you know what? He was the football coach, and he was literally like, yeah, dude, I don't really know chemistry, so we're gonna figure this out together. If y'all got a question, let me know. We're gonna Google it. And it was awesome though because it was cool to see like a teacher be like, yeah, I don't know fucking shit. Let's find out together. Because other teachers they would act like dip fucks if they didn't know something. They would make you feel bad, and you're like, bro, I'm not the one who's teaching some shit I don't know. Fuck you. But anyway, you don't like, but you know what I mean. So that was actually pretty cool. But because of that, I actually didn't learn as much as I wish I could have in for chemistry and things like that. So kind of this is I don't know how I got here, but fucking because this inelastic and elastic shit, he really sounds like the Khan Academy when he's talking about microeconomics and shit and macroeconomics and shit. Like and all the economic shit, he really this is what the fuck this sounds like, that's what that reminded me of, and that's how I got here. Anyway, I apologize, but I feel like it's a compliment for me to say you sound like Khan Academy is a compliment. But anyway, um, in terms of the economical shit, like elasticity and demand and all of that, I would go if you don't understand, some of this stuff with marketing, go to Khan Academy and watch these refresher videos on these concepts. Also, if you're trying to keep up with some of this shit, do they have marketing in here? They really should. Um, I mean, economics is actually very helpful for marketing. And common thread collective content is proof of that, in my opinion, and Depesh Mandalia content. But yeah, so they got social media literacy. That's chill. And internet safety. All right. All right. Yo, Khan Academy, if you see this, you should totally fucking put marketing shit up in this bitch. But anyway, Khan Academy is fucking awesome. Fucking, let's watch this shit. My bad.
And we're going to talk about it a lot. And so simply stated, this is a graph where on the y-axis you have price and the x-axis you have quantity. And the idea is to measure the relationship between a change in price and the change in demand. And so there's two different ways to look at this. If something is perfectly inelastic, the amount that you would sell does not change relative to price. And often the example used for this is gasoline. The demand for gasoline is often...
I apologize. Khan Academy should also do some sales content, man. All right, back to demand for gasoline.
distinct from price. We all have cars. We have to fill them up regardless of price. We complain when the price goes up, but demand does not change much relative to price. It is a almost perfectly inelastic good. Whereas many of the other things that we sell are actually very elastic, meaning that price and quantity are sort of perfectly related to one another, such that if you increase price, you get a proportional reduction in quantity, or if you decrease price, you get a proportional increase in quantity. And that's an object that is perfectly elastic. Another way to look at this is formulaically. I always like to try and take words and turn them into their formulaic components to try and understand them more. But if we think about the price elasticity of demand as an equation where you have the percentage of change in quantity demanded.
You know what I don't even like about this whole price elasticity, inelasticity concept bullshit is, does it even fucking matter in application of reality whether or not something is inelastic and elastic based on what's going to happen with the price and demand of that? And hear me out. Look at insulin as an example. Look at insulin. People are fucking dying without that shit, but they raising that price sky fucking high because they don't fucking give a shit because people are gonna fucking die without it. And then, you know what I'm saying? Um, and so then it's kind of like maybe I'm explaining the damn point by disagreeing with it. I disagree with the premise of it, but maybe that is the explanation of it. But I don't fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's just like if someone doesn't need a price, it doesn't really need something, it doesn't matter if you change the price or not, because if they don't need it, they're just not going to buy it if they don't need it. But if they do need something, it does matter if you change the price because they're still going to need to buy it, even if you change the price of it. But you can price them out of access to it. You know what I mean? Um, so I don't know. Like, for me, when we start talking about price elasticity versus inelasticity, I just feel like the names are very like cognitive dissonant for the reality of what is happening with income disparity when we talk about that, right? It's kind of like saying casualty of war or um, insurgents um, as a byproduct of war. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, well, I don't know any insurgent. So I think it was Cat Williams that said something like that. Am I getting that wrong? That might be my memory. But I feel like that was a Cat Williams thing that I said wrong, but the idea is from him. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, fucking yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this shit. Let's get back to this shit.
Divided by the percentage change in price. So imagine at $100 you sell 10 units, and if you were to get to a demand where you sold 15 units, so that would be a 50% change in price, or 50% change in demand, and it happened at a 100% price change, you could get a ratio between these two things. And what we'll know is that if price elasticity is greater than 1, so if this formula produces a number greater than 1, then we consider the good to be elastic. And if it is less than 1, we would consider it to be inelastic. So let's look at this very quickly. So if we have a price elasticity of demand where you have a 50% change in demand on a 100% change in price. So let's imagine we had a wallet and we were selling it for $100 and we decided to increase the price by 100%. So we went all the way to $200 and we only had a 50% reduction in demand. We're making more money there, right? Like price is considered to be inelastic. Whereas it's considered to be elastic if the change in demand is greater than the change in price. So in other words, if changing the price has a very dramatic effect, it's elastic, right? They move together. As one goes, the other goes. Inelastic would be one moves, the other doesn't really move, right? In particular, as it relates to demand. And as marketers, our job all the time is to think about how we can make our product more inelastic, such that we could change the price, namely increase it, and not affect demand.
One thing that I don't like about the idea of the price and not affecting demand to increase the price is, to me, it just kind of sounds like weaponizing either false scarcity in order to increase the demand, or it just seems like price gouging. You know what I'm saying? I don't consider that my job as a marketer. So that is a concept I disagree on. However, I will say part of what I think makes their advertising successful is because they think that way with their numbers. When you implement their strategies into your ad campaigns, you're then going to see that result because that is what they do. Um, so my balance there is taking the strategies that work for people who think like this, but then implementing it with a way that I feel is more value aligned in terms of what I do with my pricing and what I do with the delivery of the offer, if that makes sense.
The same amount. So, what causes that? How do we as marketers think about our job and our efficacy sometimes as being measured by the elasticity of the demand? Now, we're going to stop and acknowledge that there are also external factors that contribute to the elasticity of demand. By the way, I'm just going to acknowledge real fast. This graphic is from a blog on SISM that does a great job of outlining 7 factors affecting the price elasticity of demand. But I just want to highlight a few of these and think about some examples where the surrounding market conditions, as well as our individual actions as marketers, have the ability to affect the elasticity of price, or our ability to increase the price without changing the supply of demand, or such that when we do discount, we get a massive increase in demand relative to the percentage decrease in price. That's another lever. So it's not just about our ability to increase price over time. That's one way to determine something to be inelastic. But it's also to say that when we do run promotion, when we do run discount, the increase in demand offsets the decrease in margin or price. Okay, that's a really important attribute as well. So things that contribute to it. Level of competition. This is a huge one. So how easy is it to replicate the same value of product at a lower price? Okay, this goes for agency service providers as well as an individual product. If your product is a commodity, it ends up becoming very elastic in price. The availability of substitutes is a similar way of saying level of competition, but how easy is it to get the same thing? The price of the product to start, the time frame, the proportion of income spent on commodities, right? So this is a macro factor related to how much money people have available to spend on your good. Again, this goes back to some of the grocery or other items, is that there's only a certain amount of money that people have disposable to spend on that object. The degree of necessity, things that tend to be critical or immovable. Think of this as your electricity is going to be very inelastic in the sense that you need it every month. Now, you may toggle that demand a little, but tends to be that things that are absolutely necessary in our life become very inelastic. You can change the price and not change demand. Brand loyalty, the availability of information, and then the scarcity of the good itself. So, as a dramatic example, think about categories where we are seeing and understanding that price becomes very elastic. Let's take a market like the air fryer, where suddenly you go from a hot object that has a novelty to it, that when it's initially introduced, then all of a sudden you get this massive influx of products that can substitute virtually the same experience at a lower and lower price. So what happens is that the demand at this price level versus the demand at this price level tend to be elastic, meaning that the demand is higher here than here, and it becomes very difficult to increase or drive increased demand at this price when the other options begin to exist.
So, just reiterating again from what he's saying in a bunch of different ways, if the more elastic something is, the more variation there is in the pricing of it, and the harder it can be to charge a higher price because people will be able to go get the same thing for cheaper. The more inelastic something is, then the higher you can charge for it because it's not something people can just go get anywhere. So when you right now what we're seeing is the economics explained behind the theoretical concept of what I use with value based, cost based, and market based pricing balance.
And I'll give you an example that I've personally experienced about a similar idea. When we launched Kalo rings, my brother and I had a lot of debates about what we should sell the product for, what the price should be. And we had all sorts of discussions around customer expectations of price, as well as what we thought it was reasonable to the cost. Because a lot of times people think about pricing as sort of a cost plus model, meaning they take what does it cost to produce it, and then how do we create a reasonable stair step of markup off of cost. There's value-based pricing. There's all sorts of ideas of how you can do it. But one of the things that happens is that depending on the market that you choose, you have to be able to consider for yourself the actual capacity to substitute the similar value at a lower price. And when we started, Kalo had more of an inelastic price model because there was virtually no competition. So when we named the price at $19.99 to start, we were essentially setting the market. And even when we moved products up sometimes for limited edition offerings, or the demand was really inelastic related to the price. We could constantly increase the price and see a similar level of demand because there was very little substitute to start. But because the barrier to entry for this product was almost zero, there was an influx of demand that now if you go look for silicone wedding ring on Amazon or Google, you'll see thousands of results. And what you'll see is it got all the way to the point where you could buy 7 rings for $14.99. The amount of the cost to substitute went down so low that all of a sudden the price became very elastic. And that was a change in the market that we had to think about how to solve for from a brand loyalty, marketing, creating scarcity and messaging to try and reintroduce a reframe of our product from this competition and category. Now, when I use these examples, I don't mean to use them to dismiss our responsibility as marketers for how we can impact the price of a product and to create more inelasticity. It's more to just acknowledge the kinds of dynamics that exist that are contributing to the way a customer's willingness to buy a product is affected by factors that are not just our own decision-making. With that said, we as marketers must understand that our job in selling a product is not to drive just top-line revenue or even to think about the overall P&L. It's to think about maximizing the marginal value of every single SKU. An e-commerce business exists entirely on the premise that you could place an order for an individual set of goods and then maximally sell them to generate a return on the investment of each SKU. In order to do that, we have to acknowledge a really important fact about each SKU. First, it's that getting the price right is hard. And one of the best ways to do that is to use a real-time tool to help you reconcile and understand the costs of the goods, the size of the bet that you're placing. This is a screenshot from inside of Final Loop, partners that we use to promote this series, and a product that I am a huge believer in. What Leo and team are doing to help increase the visibility into the understanding a real-time view of your finances, including what you have paid, where your product is, the actual real-time COGS is such a huge component in understanding how to think about price. If we're going to maximize the marginal value of every SKU as marketers, we have to have the clearest view of cost that we can. And Final Loop is a great tool to help you do that. Okay. If we understand that our job is to maximize the marginal value of every SKU as marketers, which is going to be a mechanism to help increase contribution margin, to increase the overall profitability of the business, to increase cash flow as well, we should also recognize that the demand curve is not the same for all SKUs.
I just had to pause real quick because the way that they slipped that advertising in was fucking genius. Because he goes from explaining the differences in how cost-based, value-based, and market-based pricing, in his own words, can impact price elasticity, to then showing how he uses the tool that he is then placing the ad in for, to show how that tool that is sponsoring this video is used. You know what the fuck I mean? I think it's genius, and it's a very, very interesting way and a very smart and good way to slip in sponsored advertising into marketing content. I fucking love it. I had to stop for that. Okay, let's see what the fuck he's saying about the demand curve and SKUs, and then I'll bitch about what I processed there.
So price shouldn't be either. Demand is not constant on an axis of time, and it's not constant on an axis of SKUs in our library. There is a wild variation of demand across the entire portfolio of products that we have. Each of them is in itself our own little bet or investment on potential future demand. Let me say that again. Each SKU you have is like placing a bet on the potential future demand of that individual SKU. And when you think about it like that, your POs get a little bit harder to place, and they require a deep and intimate sync with marketing around the mechanism that you're going to use to maximize the demand for that specific unit. And when I say that, I mean the size small of your jeans, the color of the wristband you're ordering. Each variant itself is a SKU that has its own demand profile. Let me give you an example of how the relationship between our existing supply illustrates for us the varying levels of demand. Okay. One of the reports that we like to use inside of Statless that helps us think about the variable demand relative to inventory position is the inventory dashboard. It gives us a few critical insights. One is how many units of a specific SKU we have remaining, the inventory value, the current inventory sales value. So think of this as the cost of these goods. This is the retail sales value at full price of those products. Then we have the average weekly sales velocity.
Yeah, I didn't know when was a good time to interrupt him, but I just wanted to say that earlier he was talking about POs and how whenever you're going to have different demands impacting different SKUs, you're also going to have different POs to go with that. That's purchase order, for those who don't know. And so he's saying you already understand that you're ordering different amounts of different items from your purchase orders, from what you need in your inventory based on what people are buying. And that data is how you can tell what you should be doing with your ads and your numbers on the marketing side. Because with your pricing, you're going to have a different demand for different items. So you shouldn't price all of your items the same because people are going to want more of different things, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I'm basically just kind of repeating what the fuck he just said in a way, but because he's using some big ass words, I just wanted to try and simplify that. I don't know if that's helpful or hurtful. So we'll let that shit marinate. All right, let's keep going.
Charted here to give us an illustration of where that sales volume is trending. And then the corresponding days of inventory remaining, which is simply the remaining inventory divided by the average weekly sales divided by 7, right? That gives us the number of average, or times 7, the average days of inventory remaining. Now, what that allows us to do then is to set up a state of inventory using an ABC letter grade that works something like this. If we were to take our inventory account divided by the average unit sales per day, or by week times 7, that same example I get, you would get days inventory remaining. Now, if you take the amount of days inventory remaining divided by the days of production lead needed to produce that product, you could create an inventory grade based on the amount of turns of inventory that you have available. You may have heard this phrase before, which is the idea of just-in-time inventory. It's the idea that the ideal state for e-commerce is that you are receiving your next batch of inventory at the exact day that you run out of your present stock, such that you are never out of stock and never overstocked. Now, that's a pipe dream in many cases. There's often a balancing act between these two things.
So I've actually never done an inventory grade for anything I've ever done myself with marketing or merchandising because I've worked in retail, I've worked in sales, and I've worked in marketing, and I've been a business owner. So I literally have worked in all aspects of this myself because I have my own product line. You can go see that, noahduckchild.com. Um, so I've always used PARS to understand when to order more based on my purchase history. Um, so I'm actually very interested in what makes an inventory grade better than a PARS sheet. You know what the fuck I mean? Um, so let's see.
But this idea of keeping an eye on the state of your inventory relative to the amount of turns remaining. So if that's days of inventory remaining divided by the days of production needed. So if we go back to the previous graph here, you'll see if we have 191 days of inventory remaining, let's say that's about 6 months, right? A little over 6 months, and the product only takes 4 months to produce, then we have about a 1.5 turns of inventory left, right? So you can see my inventory grade. We might assign values relative to how much inventory we're willing to hold on the balance sheet. Now, this could be related to the cash position of the organization. In other words, how important it is that we quickly turn inventory back into cash. This could be related to the likelihood that it goes bad on the shelf or an increase in storage costs, or just a general market signal about the demand for the product relative to how much supply we want to carry. So each individual business is going to have a different inventory grade, okay? So what we're discussing right now is how the health of the position of the inventory relative to your ability to get more in stock is another factor that marketers have to consider as it relates.
Okay, now I understand. When you're just doing pars, you're not factoring in the ability to get more inventory in. When you're doing pars only, you're only factoring in your own inventory count and based on your sales per day. So, okay, now I see the purpose of an inventory grade because it factors all of that factors both in for you. And if you're already pre-calculating that, you don't have to go be worried or track after the fact how long is it going to take to get your shit in because it's already been accounted for. I understand now. All right, cool.
To price. So not only are there market components, how much demand exists generally at the present price, but there's also then your business's unique cash and inventory position that affects how you as a marketer should think about price. And I don't just mean the actual MSRP or the retail suggested price. I mean how often you discount, whether you're willing to discount, and then the other lever component of price, which is the CAC or the acquisition cost you're willing to pay relative to that price. All three are different levers available to you when thinking about maximizing the marginal value of SKU. Now, another quick drop here for my partner, Weight Flyer.
Okay, but I fucking love the way that they use these ads because literally he's telling us they're ads because they're sponsored and they're legally required to do so and it's ethically the right thing to do as well. Um, but if that weren't the case and he wasn't telling us that these were ads, it's integrated so well it doesn't even fucking feel like an ad. It just feels like part of the educational material. And I think that speaks to the efficacy of the offers that they're using in relation to what they do, as well as their ability to make an ad feel like it is a life experience rather than you're being sold to. You know what I'm saying?
When we're talking about inventory, oftentimes the hardest part of any e-commerce business is the ability to finance the purchase of additional inventory. And especially of businesses, if you're coming out of a struggle period where maybe your TTM EBITDA isn't really strong, or you have very little history as an early stage startup, sometimes the best financing available is the one that minimizes your personal obligation. So you're not on the hook in case you can't pay it back personally with your home or your kid's college fund or whatever it might be, and gives you access to capital quickly. Now, with Wayflyer, I've talked about this before. It is on you to do a great job of understanding how the remittance rate relates to the APR that you would expect to pay on any debt, and how 10% on a flat fee is not a 10% interest rate in the way that you might be thinking about it with your car or your home or anything else. If you pay this off in 6 months, it's functionally double the interest rate than you see here. So it's important to understand this, but the access to low risk capital personally is an important part of our ecosystem and something you should check out from my friends at Wayflyer. Thanks y'all for appreciate your sponsorship of this content. Okay, we're going to spend some time on this graph, okay? Because this is a critically important thing to understand for marketers as it relates to how a business's inventory position affects how you think about marketing strategy. Okay? So what we're going to have here is a y-axis that shows contribution margin per unit. So we're moving just from...
Okay, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I didn't know these two fucking things, so I was literally just looking this shit up. But apparently, APR, I believe in this context, means annual percentage rate, which makes sense in the context, and remittance rate refers to rate of exchange, in my understanding. So, yeah. So, with that being said, let's go back and Wayfair. So they're talking about cash advances. So I guess that's why that makes sense in this context. Like, with an advance, what would be the annual percentage rate in terms of the interest rate and the additional fees charged with the loan, um, and the remittance rate regarding data exchange. So, yeah. All right, I had to look that shit up. Look, man, we're not taught financial literacy and shit, so fucking. Now let's go back here because I wasn't paying attention, man. Because I was like giggling and shit. Let's get this ad. Let's go. Let's start like right here. Yeah, fuck it. Good enough. All right. So fuck it. All right. Let's try it.
Critically important thing to understand for marketers as it relates to how a business's inventory position affects how you think about marketing strategy. Okay? So what we're going to have here is a y-axis that shows contribution margin per unit. So we're moving just from gross margin, which would generally be reflected as the price you're selling it at minus all of the variable expenses except for ad spend. So this is your gross margin or your hard cost of goods. Your payment processor fee, your shipping, your fulfillment would give you gross margin, minus ad spend gives you contribution margin. So on the y-axis, we have contribution margin. Then on the x-axis, we have inventory age. And then on my right-hand axis, we have total contribution margin.
Bruh, I just realized I've been muted this whole fucking time. That really sucks for me. Fuck, man. I'm not gonna go repeat every fucking thing I just said, man. I'm not gonna lie. So, for those of you who were not listening to this, who are only hearing me talk, fucking, What I was basically saying was that this chart is looking at comparing the your investment per item in your offer to your investment per person. In terms of ads, you're looking at it, how much are you spending per item to make a sale versus how much are you spending per person to make a sale, if that makes sense. um Fucking, and then what I was saying was, when you are able to receive a good return on investment because your offer is able to be priced above what you need to get a good return on investment. That's kind of like J Lo and her Selena Quintanilla era. Everybody loved J Lo then because, you know, we really respected Selena, and to have her represent Selena was a very big deal. Um, B grade era is when people realized she was lip syncing. Uh, and I feel like if she hadn't taken credit for other people's work in the way that she has in her career. And it's one thing to, I feel bad for Millie Vanilli. Shit. Y'all know what the fuck I mean. I feel bad for them because now everybody's getting famous for lip syncing on TikTok. But the difference is, people aren't lying on TikTok about whether or not, well, some of them are, that has been a thing, but most people are not lying. Like, they're like admitting that they're lip syncing. They're like, yeah, that's what I'm fucking doing. They're not acting like they're not lip syncing. Um, and so I think it's about the transparency and how upfront you are. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if she were to give people credit for the work they did, or to not act like she was the one doing other people's work in a way, I feel like people wouldn't hate her as much for the style she could have, because when has when she's within her vocal range, she's not that bad. It's whenever she tries to go outside of her vocal range, it's but we're everybody can, but there's a difference between, being a human being just enjoying the music and enjoying singing versus, like, representing yourself as someone who can execute a specific action. You know what I'm saying? And so if she wasn't representing herself as someone who could execute singing notes she couldn't hit, no one, I don't think people will. I mean, you're always gonna have people judge you no matter what the fuck you do. You could be amazing and still have people judge you, but like, you wouldn't have people shitting on her for lip syncing the way she is. If she was just more upfront about, these are the notes I execute well in, and those other notes aren't me, you know? Versus acting like she can do something she can't do. That's why people don't like her. And that's how she got into where we see J Lo today, to where she had to cancel her show because half of the venue was not sold. Um, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you just take this and you picture it, like, and I'm not trying to shit on J Lo. I hope that wasn't too harsh, because I do appreciate J Lo's talent for what it can be, but I see why people criticize her based on her personality and certain behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying, like, she can be a good actress. She can be a good singer when she stays within her range, but she's not the best singer at singing some notes that she tries to sing and act like she did well. But I said I'm not trying to be a bitch, and there I go being a bitch again. I don't know how not to be one, I guess. But you know what? I think y'all know what my fucking point is. We're gonna watch this shit. I'm over here. Let's talk about marketing. And then it's a 2 hour live stream on dissecting J-Lo. I'm just kidding, but let's go.
So if we go back to this graph here, this idea that you could grade your inventory.
I forgot to put the captioner on, but he said if we could go back to this graph here, this idea that you could grade major, and then when we hit play, it's going to continue saying whatever the fuck he's saying. Um, and fucking, I was also just thinking, because I accidentally had myself muted when I didn't mean to be, I really hope that I didn't fuck up the mute button with having an echo on here before, but if there is an echo or was an echo, that's what I did wrong. My bad. Oopsie. Okay.
Inventory on these scales of 0 to 1.5, 1.6 to 3, 3.1 to 5. Well, the age of the inventory, the days of inventory remaining, is the numerator that increases this inventory grade. So it moves your score up and moves then the inventory grade down. So in other words, you are in a healthy or good inventory position in the A level. You are starting to get to too much inventory in the B level, and you have way too much inventory, years of inventory potentially at the C level, such that there's a clear just break between the present demand for the product and the amount of product that you have. The market is signaling that your sales velocity does not match your supply. There's a break between supply and demand such that there needs to be a reconciliation or a change in tactic. Okay. So when we draw these three distinct areas, A grade, healthy inventory position, good relationship between supply and demand. B, we tend to get in excess of supply relative to demand. And C, there's a significant imbalance between supply and demand in this chart. Okay, and then in my right-hand axis here, we have total contribution margin. Okay, think of this not as a per unit consideration, or where over here we're looking at per unit. This is the total value of a set of supply. Maybe you have 100 units. This would be the total contribution of the sale of all of those units. Okay, now, marketers, here's how you can look at an inventory sheet and begin to think about how that affects your promotion of that product. It also helps you think about the life cycle of a set of products, okay? Life cycle of a set of products and marketing strategy and how they relate to one another. Okay. In an ideal world, if we wanted to maximize the contribution margin per unit, okay? In other words, where demand is at the greatest level relative to supply, okay? So think about this as this graph. As we move from the left A grade over to the right C grade, you go from high demand, low supply to the opposite, high supply, low demand. And what is the corresponding marketing strategy that's required in relationship to that position? Well, if you could sell every unit that you had at full price with $0 spent in CAC, that is how you would maximize the marginal value of every unit that you have. Well, Taylor, how does that happen? What are you talking about? This happens from selling to your existing customers primarily through email and SMS. When you have enough pent-up demand from an owned audience, this can also happen when you are an influencer with a large audience that you can access at zero cost, and you're able to present a product for distribution in that moment and sell every single unit at full price and zero CAC. That is how you maximize the marginal value of every unit. It's also how you're going to maximize the total contribution in most cases. Now, oftentimes, it is not true that businesses can sell out the entire inventory set in that arena. And I would even argue, if you are selling out of every unit here, you are not maximizing the total contribution margin potential of your PO. You didn't order enough. We want to get to a balance between supply and demand that reflects that we maximize the total potential value of that batch of inventory. This would be a signal to me that you under-ordered. Now, there are moments where that is a necessary part of the planning process for the sake of driving a sense of demand or scarcity for your business. But in general, if you were able to sell all your products at full price and $0 CAC, you likely did not maximize the total potential of that batch of inventory. The second phase is to move out of selling exclusively to an existing audience and now using the product to capture a new audience at full price with an above target efficiency CAC. So before we get to selling at full price and target CAC, there's the idea that we could sell some batch of product. And if we think about going from existing customers into even warmer audience, maybe remarketing or lapsed customers via paid media, the next tranche of lowest hanging fruit, oftentimes we have an efficiency target that's above our new customer acquisition target, and we're able to sell still at full price using a above efficiency target CAC. And you can see as we move out this curve, we have the contribution margin per unit drops dramatically from here to here, because the second you introduce CAC, you're introducing some significant percentage decline from a $0 CAC to some above average target CAC. Whereas your break even might be a 50% CAC, a full price might be a 25% CAC, a 4-to-1 versus a 2-to-1 ROAS, if you're thinking about it that way. But you can see what's likely true is you're now capturing all of this value plus incremental value here. So your total contribution margin is going up. Additionally, as you think about this A-grade inventory, we should still not be using price or discounting as a lever yet, but we begin to get to full price at target CAC. Okay. So now we're getting to this phase, likely moving into the phase of new customer acquisition, where we are hitting that 2-to-1 target. We're selling the product still at full price, and we are beginning to grow the total contribution off this inventory set, still while the contribution margin unit goes below. Now, I want you to think about this dotted line here as being illustrative of break even. So at this point, at full price and target CAC, we should still be first order profitable. So you can imagine the gap between this dotted line and this cost per unit here as being illustrative of the profitability per unit. Now, as that inventory begins to age slightly, we move out of maybe just that 1.5 turns to the demand is not quite pacing as much as we had anticipated. Now we begin to think about the need to discount, where there has been a signal to us that the demand for this product is not matching our available supply.
All right, I haven't stopped so far because I didn't want to interrupt them, because he basically is explaining in technical terms the shit that I had said before. Basically about how we're looking at comparing the cost of your advertising when you regard it in terms of price per unit versus price per lead. Um, And so now I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say on discounts. For me, I really don't like to discount shit. I will discount things to celebrate things. You know what I'm saying? And I offer discounts through my loyalty program. But besides that, like right now, I have offers going out of stock because my supplier is going to stop. So I want to push out as much of that material as I can, because I don't know if I'll be able to replicate it. So to do so, I discounted what's left. Um, and whenever that supply ends, it's gone for good. And I'll try to put those designs on new products through a new supplier, but I don't know how I'll be able to make it the same, you know? So for me, I use discounts as a way to reward customer loyalty and to say thank you for spending time with me. And then I use discounts to move things that I know I'll no longer be able to sell in the way that I've been selling it. But I do try not to discount my offers generally, because I just think that the value doesn't necessarily um, go away, if that makes sense. Um, I think reaching a new market can be difficult sometimes, like market expansion issues can happen, but I don't know, like with clothes, for example, like I go to thrift stores all the time. You know, you'll never not need clothes. Like, and the whole thing about clothes being in or out of season and not wearing new clothes and things like that, like I have mixed thoughts on fast fashion, you know? Like I prefer to like on one level I understand the concept of fast fashion being affordable, but on another level it's about what about long-term sustainability? But you know what? That's a whole nother conversation. Let's get back to the program here.
And this may happen across an entire product set. It may happen on a subset of products. It may happen only on edge cases, larges, smalls, extra smalls, color variants that were a little wacky, whatever it might be. And I would contend that the first action that we take when we get to the zero grade is to offer a discount, likely only to a subset of customers, maybe customers who have bought product A but never B. We sell them product B at a discount. We try and introduce an expansion of our customer portfolio and their product mix with a small discount. Doesn't need to be dramatic here, without using this in paid media. because when we reduce the margin on a discount basis and introduce CAC, margin gets pressed quickly. But if we can go out with a discount to our existing customers at $0 CAC, that's the next most accretive action we can take off this inventory. From there, we move to discount and an above average efficiency target in CAC. So we ensure we're still making money here, but the inventory is beginning to age into an area that might be at risk. Okay? And this is an important distinction. I want to illustrate the distinction between these two stars, because this is where if we go back to marketers, sometimes we're thinking about the P&L, and sometimes marketers were thinking about the cash flow statement. This is when those two strategies begin to diverge. And this is where we are holding so many things at once in marketing, and why it's so important to understand the game that you are playing as a business, what the primary liquidation mechanism is as a business. Are you distributing cash? Are you looking for a sale event? Is protecting EBITDA matter? Do you have covenants with the bank to keep? Or do you need to create cash? How much cash do you have available to you? How important is it to turn aged inventory back into cash? How do all of these things affect your decisions as a marketer? But this point right here, this star illustrates the point at which you would maximize total contribution margin off that inventory set. Any action that we take to the right, all of these things down here are begin to deteriorate contribution margin, okay? But they do help with cash. So this star represents the end of the actions that we would take to maximize the P&L. This star over here actually is about the point at which we will maximize cash flow.
Okay, I see what he's saying. So that's literally an answer to what I was saying before we watched this snippet. So I was questioning, like his usage of discounts in this context, if it's profitable long term. And the response that I feel based on this content from that is, well, you are factoring in short term cash flow, which is easy money, versus your long term sustainability. And by having multiple offers, because you're going to have different offers in different stages, you'll then be able to make those decisions based on your pricing and the demand to strategize to build the offers that give you that long-term sustainability. Okay. And I think he said P&L for profit and loss statement regarding cash flow, and I thought about pausing it in that moment, but I didn't want to interrupt that chain of statements he was saying then.
Two different strategies, two different moments that have two different initiatives relative to the objective of the organization. So as we begin to push to the point where we are now selling discounted product at an above target CAC, we're pressing all the way up to the point at which we are now no longer going to be first order profitable. And this is likely when this inventory has aged into what we would call C grade, or a point where we're like, man, we have too much on the balance sheet. Whatever that threshold is, where the age of the inventory begins to be a point where it's like, this is going to eat up cash in a way that we are not happy with. And it is better that we recomprise that inventory back to cash to make a purchase into better quality inventory that we can maximize more marginal value on than to allow it to sit unused on the shelf where it deteriorates cash and can't be reinvested into better inventory. When we reach this threshold, we now begin to discount at target CAC, which likely means that we are going to be not profitable. And then worst case scenario, or what we would call a liquidation strategy, where the inventory is now proven that we cannot move it at the present price, at the present acquisition target, and we must now take a liquidation where we are losing money on a per unit basis, but turning it back into cash to make more inventory, discounting the product at a below target CAC. This is liquidated at all costs down as we get to this level of the spectrum. Now, every one of these actions is a tool in your tool belt as a marketer that you think about the job that you have to do, whether you are maximizing the contribution margin per unit or you are maximizing the total contribution margin, and where your inventory presently sits. If you are in an apparel business, for example, I promise you that if you asked for and put together a report that looks like this, you are going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of SKUs that exist in this area that your business would be well served to liquidate, even at a slight loss, for the sake of being able to turn back into better inventory that can produce better margin in the future.
Yeah, man, he's basically saying if you get to the point where you're doing the math, and you're looking at what is your contribution margin per unit, you're looking at that versus your cost per acquisition, and if you get to the point where the difference is so great that you're struggling to then afford to be able to restock your product, um it is much more effective for you, would be cheaper for you and better for you to then get rid of that shit that isn't serving you at a discount. It's basically like if you have debt. If you owe someone money and they never pay your debt, and then they aren't getting paid from you, so they sell that debt from you to a debt collector because it's better for them to get some money back than no money. It's kind of like that, but with your inventory, with your investment. You know what I'm saying? So he's saying that's when you want to implement your discounts, um, with this strategy. And you know what? I feel like it's actually very helpful for me, because in the past there are things that I probably could have discounted but didn't, because I just didn't want to devalue myself. But is making no money off of something I could have made some money off of. You know what I mean? What's really devaluing? Like no money or some money, right? Or but then I guess that also factors into how we can perceive worth under capitalism. You know what the fuck I mean? So I don't know. But all right, let's try to watch the end of this shit.
Unless carrying that on the balance sheet is a way to protect the P&L in the short term. Because this action deteriorates the profit and loss statement, whereas this action inflates the balance sheet and hurts cash. So again, you can start to understand how just going out and selling stuff and running things on a promo to think about what the ROAS is all relative. The other action I see happen all too often from marketers is that we are running discount above average target CAC on inventory that is about to run out. This breaks my heart. We should not be paying an exorbitant CAC for inventory that's in low supply. We should be tightening. This is why another reason why cost controls are so important is it gives you a lever to tighten the efficiency relative to available demand and inventory, or relative to available supply, excuse me. So let's talk about this as an example of where now marketers, we begin to think about how to use these levers relative to opportunity. One of the reasons we talk about 4-quarter accounting is it gives us a rhythm as a business to think about timing supply. When we know the pace of our revenue and when we can create moments to drive increased demand and can plot that a year ahead, it allows us to make inventory a process that is synced to the marketing calendar. If you ever listen to Sean and Connor Ridge talk about this, they're big believers in 4-quarter accounting. They do it in an awesome way. And what it allows you to do is build a rhythm to your business. E-commerce is a rhythm business. One of the things that
So everything they are doing is super focused on e-commerce, and a lot of the things that they talk about, you really can't apply it to services, because when they go into things like SKUs and you're talking about advertising based on your SKU, you really cannot apply that to a service-based business, because a service isn't going to have that type of product variation. Typically, you're not going to have that need for marketing your offers in different ways that way. Either they get the offer or they don't, or they want an upsell or a downgrade or they don't. Um, but when it comes to how they're talking about syncing your calendar based on the revenue potential, based on the inventory you want to provide, based on specific um, events in your calendar, all of that can also be applied to any launch of any type of service in business or marketing of services in business as well.
I think we've got lost in is this idea that you should be constantly trying to get to your maximum spend every moment in every month. No, you should be building an annual plan and executing against that with timing and pace and rhythm. Your ability to predict your future revenue is the mechanism by which you maximize the marginal value of every unit, because you can order supply that keeps you in that green zone.
I also like this because I've been really ruminating over the feast and famine cycle and how to break the feast and famine cycle. And this kind of feels like he's giving you the advice of what to do in a riptide. When you're in a riptide, people will say don't try fighting it. Let the riptide carry you out to wherever it does. And then once you're no longer stuck in it, then swim around to go back to shore. Um, or whatever, something like that. Fucking, if I got that right. That could be totally wrong. That's not advice. Don't take that advice. That's just what I heard, I think. Fucking, so, but if that were good advice, and, let's assume for the ideology of this video that it is, that's kind of, I feel like, similar to what he's telling you to do in marketing when it comes to breaking the feast and famine cycle. And the feast and famine cycle is the idea of, that there are times in your business, where you have a lot of traffic and a lot of sales, and then there's times in your business where you don't. And it could be based on seasonality, it could be based on just by definition of what you do, it could be based on your ability to market yourself, or a number of factors. Or it could also be based on you when sometimes people will get stuck in a loop of they are putting their resources in to generate and acquire leads, and then once they get those leads, you're so focused on taking care of the leads you've got then that you aren't able, or do not, for whatever reason, uh, put the work in to continue generating leads while you're taking care of those leads. So then when you're done with that lead, there will be a downtime because you'll have to restart that process again. So for various reasons, we could be in a feast and famine cycle. And by this strategy, what he's saying is, well, if you already know you're going to be in a feast and famine cycle, we can plan for that ahead of time and understand and think of your revenue based on the whole year, and then you'll be ready for the month you're not doing well. If you understand what to do with the money that you are doing well with, if that makes sense. That's what I feel like I'm getting from this. All right, let's keep watching.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about as a lever that allows you to expand the margin profile is about limited edition drops, where you are leveraging scarcity as a mechanism to move price up and increase demand due to the scarcity of the product. Give you an example. This is Bruce Bolt. All of this is publicly information that's on their website. I'm not saying anything about the unit volume or the amount of money that they did, but I can tell you they just did a product drop with the king of JUCO, an awesome influencer and content creator. And if you go to their site, it is all sold out. Now, part of that you could say is bad planning relative to the amount of supply and demand that was available. The other part is to keep in mind for your customers a way to consistently move price up by keeping supply low. And it allows you to build into the customer's mind the idea that moments aren't marked by discount and promotion. They're marked by scarcity and increased demand for an awesome, better than normal product featuring something that you might love. This is a lever you can use to maximize marginal value against price. The other thing that I want you to start to study is the idea of dynamic variant pricing. If you go to Nike's website, you will notice that if you look at
I'm not gonna lie, I have always shat on dynamic product pricing, and I want to blame music festivals for that. If you're wondering what this is, just think of music festivals. You know how they offer different pricing based on different tiers, not only based on whether or not you're doing camping or just visiting or you're VIP or you're in the pit or whatever, but also based on fucking early bird, late, how early, like they come up with all these stupid ass names for the time frames of which you buy tickets, and then they will change the pricing based on that as well. So that's, if you think of it like that, like you're already used to this type of shit. You're already used to dynamic pricing. You're just thinking about it in a different way, and you're understanding the concepts and the tech, like behind it, the theories behind it. But you've already been experiencing this shit. Now you're just learning about what you've been experiencing. So anytime you get over your head, just remember you've experienced this.
Get any of their SKUs. And that if you think about the Blazer Mid 77 Vintage, this is one of their best signature SKUs in the moment that's still on trend that people wear all the time. And if you go to the site, you will actually notice that every color and size has a different price relative to the amount of demand. So look at this. When you get to this one, the black one, no discount. Red, 78. Blue, 78. Green, 80. Dark green, 89. Black, no discount. Core SKUs, black and white and black, not available at a discounted price. Off, non-core SKUs at different sizes, low supply. You can see there's not a lot left. They're trying to move inventory that does not have the present demand at that existing price. Not all demand is equal across every SKU. This allows the business to reinvest cash back into the primary position of supply. And so if we think about this, we as marketers need to understand the sequence of inventory, the age of the inventory relative to its signal about what it means for demand and cash and P&L and maximum contribution margin per unit, and to think about how we could introduce a dynamism into our pricing to allow for SKUs that we were just wrong about the demand for to still be moved through and turned back into a cash so we can place another bet. So we can gamble again on a better mix of products to maximize the marginal value of every SKU. Every week at CTC, especially with some of our apparel brands, the center point of our growth strategy conversation revolves around this. What is the present inventory position across core SKUs? Is there anything that's aging out? Is there an opportunity to liquidate that for you? Is that a necessary action at this moment? Are there ads that we should turn off because we will organically sell out of the remaining inventory and don't need to introduce paid CAC into that margin profile? This is how you get to maximum contribution margin as a business. And it's where price is your ongoing lever. Now, you may have thought when we started this that we were just going to talk about the idea that you should price test, and you should, because you probably haven't found your total price elasticity of demand. But it's so much more than that. It's about understanding how the changing market dynamics, introduction of competitors, introduction of lower priced options, affect how consumers see your product and the elasticity of your demand. And then to understand how your inventory position and the bets you make are signals from the market about how much demand there is for the product at your price. So, marketers, go forth, maximize the marginal value of every unit of sale, know when you're impacting the P&L, know when you're impacting the balance sheet, and continue to drive predictable, profitable growth for your business.
So yeah, I think that was a great video. My favorite part, as you noticed, if you didn't notice, I'm surprised. Fucking, my favorite part of this video is the way they implement this paid sponsorships into it. My second favorite part is the way they explain different ways you can reframe commonly thought concepts taught in marketing in order to maximize your return on ad spend. So you're theoretically typically taught that discounts are bad because that's going to devalue your offer and then no one else is going to want to buy it at full price. However, they are able to explain when to actually trigger the discount so that when you use a discount, it's because that's what's going to be the most profitable thing for you to do at that time. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I like about them. What I didn't like is the way that they use scarcity and the way that their focus is more focused on capitalism. Why isn't my captioner working? Is it working for you guys? Let's pull this up. So I don't like how they use fucking capitalism. I'm gonna try refreshing this. So yeah, I don't like how they use scarcity and shit like that. So some of the things that they say can be reasons people don't trust marketers. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think what they teach is very helpful when you use it in an ethical way, because you don't have false scarcity, you have real scarcity. You're not trying to maximize the value of a SKU in terms of getting people to pay the most they can for it with a consideration of elasticity. You are more focused on, are you using your resources that you have available to you to then get the best return on investment? So there are things in their messaging that I wish were different, but at the end of the day, I cannot deny that um, the techniques and ideologies behind what they're saying are very helpful to succeed in marketing. Now, whether or not you want to do that because it's upholding capitalism is up to you. And I understand either way. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now, fucking, I want to compare this to Depesh Mandalia next. But before we do, I just want to take a quick little breaky break. But before we take a break, let's just kind of reflect on Common Thread Collective here. So they're very e-commerce based. I know this video wasn't very introductory, and I passed them off as like someone who is more introductory compared to Depesh Mandalia. I don't know if you say Mon or Main, or with his last name Mandalia or Mandalia, to be honest, or if it's Mandalia or Mandalia. But um, yeah, but we'll figure that out. Fucking, so we're gonna watch his videos next. But so I know I passed Common Thread Collective off like they were more simple, and this was not simple, and that is not what I meant. If I did come off that way, what I did mean is if you go through, and I don't want to show you because I don't know how much is legal for me to show you, because I think that it's technically fair use where I am reacting and commenting on their published public content. And I feel comfortable for that with fair use, but I don't know if me showing the content that they charge for would constitute as that in this context where I could potentially monetize this video. So I don't want to like, but they do have, when you actually go like into buy work with them and use their services, they have all of this training material, including all of these PDFs that do explain all of these definitions and everything like that. So anything that you're saying that he was saying, it's like if you didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, when you do their training and actually hire them, they have the resources and the material to explain all of that to you. That's just not what we were watching, and I hadn't seen what we were going to watch before. But yeah, I'm really glad we watched that. And I do think that because of its focus on e-commerce, it's still going to be a really good video for me to then, when we go watch Depesh Mandalia next, you'll see what I was talking about, at least with how Depesh's messages, I feel, can be more applicable outside of e-commerce as well. Um, so yeah, some loud music is about to play, I believe. I'm gonna do a quick little break. We're gonna stretch and stuff. I don't really know how long I'm gonna take, but I don't think I'll be longer than 15 minutes tops. But yeah, so I'm gonna be right back, and then whenever I come back, we're gonna do the Depeche Mandalia next, and yeah, here's some music. I apologize. Alrighty, welcome back. Ooh, my caption and everything? Okay, cool. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about Depesh Mandalia. What I like about his shit is, as I was saying, he really takes understanding understanding profitability and scaling it. So I feel like Common Thread Collective really helps you understand profitability in general. And then with Depesh Mandalia, with the way my mind processed how he teaches is I process him as teaching you how to scale that. So for me myself, with just the way my mind understands what they put out, I think I did better. I did really well by doing Common Thread Collective material first, and then the Depesh Mandalia with my learning journey. But that could be different for everybody. You know, that could be different for you. Um, but that's just So when you look at his most popular top six videos, he was really big for this live stream he did with this dude named Tim Bird on Facebook ad insights, tricks, and tips for their Facebook ads. So that one has 8,000 views, which is pretty big for a marketing video. And then he has another one for Facebook ad costs too high and how to reduce costs right now using these strategies. And this is a video that I wanted to watch because I just felt like it would be a bit more specific on one thing. And it's a little bit shorter than this video. Um, And then he has another video, Facebook ad scaling via data mastery using supermetrics. Common Thread Collective also uses supermetrics and also has material on supermetrics, I believe. And then he has another one called Watch Chat BT AI, right? My Facebook ads and funnel, and a full tutorial on how he utilizes Chat GPT to scale his advertising for doing some of the data entry and thinking that is otherwise a lot for the human mind to process. Um, and then scaling Facebook ads to 5 million a month with the BPM method is another one that's really popular, as well as his Facebook ads mastermind from actually going to Facebook headquarters. I think this one is just a 40-second ad. But these are his top six videos that are best performing. So I felt like the first one with pricing is a good way on making sure you are, with Common Thread Collective that we watched. I feel like this is a good one for making sure that you are putting yourself out there with your offer at the best pricing it can be for the best profitability for you. And then with the Facebook ad cost too high with reducing costs, I feel like this is another one to follow. This is going to be a good one to follow that up with to make sure that after you have that your ideal pricing, when you go run your ads with that, we are getting the best return on ad spend for that pricing. So that's why I thought this would be a good video to follow it up with, as well as so you can see how I feel together the messages can kind of amplify each other. So yeah, let's get this shit rolling. We're gonna make sure my
The topic
captioner is on. Put us in theater mode here. Oh shit, am I even sharing my screen? That's my bad. Was I not sharing my screen that whole time? That was totally my bad. You know what? Let's go back then. Fucking, I totally forgot to share this screen, didn't I? This entire time I was looking at the top six videos that are currently available to me for Depesh Mandalia. Alright. Oh, my bad. I was on the latest. Top six. Top six. Most popular at this time. Okay. So then we're gonna watch the Facebook ad
I'm going to
cost
talk
too
about
high one. I'm gonna make sure I got captioner on and okay. Now we're really doing this fucking bitch.
today is CPM and Facebook costs, because this has been coming up a lot more, again, like it does all the time. I mean, everyone's always talking about Facebook is expensive, I want to bring my costs down, etc. We spoke in this week's agency client review meeting. By the way, we have a weekly review of all the accounts together as a team, and we brainstorm ideas and come up with solutions. And we noticed a couple of the accounts are still struggling with higher CPMs than we'd like. So conversion rate is good, average order value is good, for example. And I often say that with CPM, so CPM, first of all, cost per 1,000 impressions, it's how kind of Facebook are looking at what to charge you, essentially. So if you want to reach 1,000 people, sometimes the CPM is low because maybe there's not that much competition, or maybe you're going after people that like to engage or brand awareness. The broader the objective is of what your goal is from Facebook, generally the lower the CPM is, because it comes down to how big the audiences are, what the competition's like, and also what the value of that one individual, and obviously many in the group, is to you and to Facebook. So if I give you the simplest example, if you are going after a particular user and you are going after the page post engagement objective, the value generally is lower both to you and to Facebook. And there are far more people who are likely to engage in an ad than there are to buy it. Now, because of that and because of the auction dynamics, you pay less for that user. If you're after someone who's recently purchased, has purchased many times, has purchased within your niche, etc., take beauty and hair care, for example. This is a common one where we often see with beauty and hair care, CPMs are generally just high, and it can be harder to bring those costs down. There's definitely some ways, and I'll show you that shortly. But in the beauty and hair care niche in particular, the CPMs are high because if you think about the audience here, so generalizing, women 25 to 45, let's say. And that's a super competitive niche wherever you go, because everyone wants to target the people that are most likely to buy. And generally speaking, that market is generally a higher propensity to buy audience than others. So if you take that, then you layer on, I want people that have bought beauty products or hair care products, etc. Then you look at all the competitors in your market, whether it's the US or a European country or worldwide, it doesn't matter what it is. For every advertiser like you that wants to access that particular demographic, there's probably like thousands and thousands of competitors out there. So what Facebook have to do is figure out, right, you want access to this demographic. What am I going to charge you? What can I charge you that's going to attract you to spend more with us, but at the same time, make sure that we give the user the best experience we can give them as well. Because if you followed any of the previous discussions where I talk about the three main players when it comes to Facebook advertising, there's Facebook, there's the user, and then there's you. And ultimately, the main thing that Facebook's looking at is, yes, they want your money as an advertiser, but if they're going to weigh up, do I want this advertiser or do I want this user? They would choose the user 10 out of 10 times, because without users, there is no advertising, there is no Facebook, for example. So if you take that in mind, when Facebook's looking at pricing, it's saying which advertiser can give the user the best experience. It might sound obvious, maybe that's something you've not thought about before, but when you really understand that, that's when you can start to make gains in reducing your costs, and by doing so, getting better users from the auction. So, one of the key things about this is when you are looking at your ad campaigns and things are rolling on, if generally the results are good, whatever you're measuring, cost per acquisition, cost per lead, return on ad spend, cost per whatever, registration, when things are going well, often people will neglect looking at some of the other metrics. And it's not to say you have to look at absolutely everything all the time. But for example, we were looking at a client ad account today. And we noticed that the CPMs were creeping up, although ROAS was really good. So this is an e-com store, for example. We're looking at the ROAS is 350%, and it's way over their target. They're spending, I don't know, 8K a day. And you can look at that and say, things are great. Let's just continue piling more money in. But because I've been doing this for so long, I know the things that could go wrong. And with the creeping CPMs, that means gradually I'm paying more for my acquisition costs, more for my clicks, etc. If for any reason that conversion rate drops, the costs are going to rise and my return on ad spend is going to get more expensive. So even though CPM, our costs are not a major concern on that account right now, we're still keeping an eye. We're looking at, right, what can we do to analyze why the CPMs are creeping up And what do we do about it? In some cases, there's nothing you can do because CPM is often driven by the auction. Take, for example, when we come into, and this is the particular time when CPMs are impacted most, is the last 2 weeks of March. This has happened since I can remember, going back 6-7 years. The last 2 weeks of March, just a universal rule that seems to happen is that the costs rise. So that, whatever niche you're in, generally the costs go up. So what's actually happening is a lot of the big advertisers out there, they often, and I'm talking about like they've got millions and millions and millions of, or even tens of millions of budget to spend. And these are kind of global brands and things like that. When it comes to setting their budgets for the year, often the next year is based on how much you spent the previous year, plus what you're asking for, etc. Sometimes what happens is, let's say you have a $10 million budget for the year, the 12 months from April to March. If you don't spend all of that, often the finance team will come back and say, well, you asked for $10 million, you've only spent 8 million. Why are you asking for 12 million for the following year? Because you failed to spend that. So what sometimes happens is agencies and in-house teams will panic spend towards the end of the financial year, sometimes end of the quarter. And it seems to hit March the most because a lot of companies have their financial years April to May. So what happens is that the costs go up just because there's so much more competition coming in from people with bigger budgets that don't generally care as much as you do about ROAS, CPA, CPL, and all those kind of things. They just want to get that budget out there because
Okay, he's saying so much good shit. I didn't want to interrupt him, but I felt like I need to interrupt him because I just want to explain why what he's saying is so important to me. So fucking where he was talking about at the beginning, he's explaining how the ad auction system works and the different factors between who else is on the market buying for the same ad position you are versus what is the user willing to pay versus what is your budget and your own constraints for the ad, how all of that factors in to your ad placement, right? And whether or not the ad is going to convert. Well, something else that factors all of this into how much budget are you going to have for this in order to put your ad out there can be factored in to whether or not you're able to spend all of your budget in the ad auction. And that connection to where how companies make decisions behind the finances of your ad budget versus or how big companies do, even if it's not you, how big companies do, because that is indicative of what's gonna the pricing of the ads are gonna be. So you can predict what is your cost gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Per acquisition in advance. And you can then have that calendar prepared in your head that Common Thread Collective was talking about, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Um, but he's saying a lot of really good shit. So I'm gonna let him finish this idea real quick, and then we're gonna reflect more on all of this.
their next year depends on it. So when you're playing against that, that becomes a lot more difficult. Now, in that kind of situation, that's competition based. You can't really do much about that. There are some advanced strategies where you can go into manual bidding, or you could just pull your budget back. Like, bear in mind, Facebook is not a guaranteed return, right? There are going to be occasions where sometimes your results are not performing as well as they need to, and you need to take a step back, reduce your budgets, analyze what's going on. But
Dude, the fact, this is what I love about him right here. He's like, this shit is not guaranteed, and sometimes you need to stop spending your fucking money. Those two things. If a marketer is not willing to tell you that, you cannot trust them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how you know you can trust the advertiser, because an advertiser that doesn't have good intention for your money is going to convince you to close that sale and put that budget with them no matter what. But a fucking advertiser who genuinely gives a shit about what the fuck is happening with your finances and your profitability is going to tell you, no, we're going to stop spending money on this right now. It's not good for you to spend money on this right now. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I really like what he's saying right now. And I think it's important to reflect on because what he's explaining too is if you can understand what other bigger companies, even if you don't have a big budget, if you understand what people with big budgets are doing, when you know that they're going to be doing certain things with their money, then you can go through, at that time, that's when you're not going to see sales until their budget runs out. So your sales are going to hit at the end, right? In a given month or something like that. Or okay, well, there's a chance they might not have a budget anymore. So this is where you can go increase yours because they probably ran their budget out, or they're probably trying to be stingy with their budget. Um, when you're able to understand and pay attention to market trends, what are people in your industry doing with their ads and why, and when do people in your industry have money and why, then you know what to do with your ads. So that way, even if you don't have as much money as them, you can still use your resources so that you're getting the most bang for your buck when you know that they're going to be struggling too, and things like that.
For example, take the last 2 weeks of March, when those costs do come up, if you're not going to go aggressive and start manual bidding and start pushing, sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that. And this is something I want you to take away as well. In these kind of situations, making wholesale changes can have a massive negative impact. So if you're in this phase, let's say end of March, end of April, May, June, etc. So at the end of the quarter, if you start to see these CPMs creeping up, keep that in the back of your mind that it could be something way out of your control that's actually causing your cost to go up. And the worst thing you can do is to change your strategy, just change your strategy. So you're like, my results are all over the place. I'm going to try new audiences. I'm going to scrap the strategy that was working 2 weeks ago. I'm going to try something new. I've seen something in a Facebook group. I've seen these hacks. I'm going to multiply and duplicate, and that will bite you in the butt. Because what often happens, and I see this so many times, is people will steer away from what was working because the costs have gone up and they're like, clearly I'm doing something wrong. But it could be that it's out of your control. So just bear that in mind before you start thinking about wholesale changes. Is the cost that I'm seeing go up due to external factors? And that's why I run these private groups and these private sessions as I do in the training, so that you can ask. Like
And that's one thing I will say, so in his Facebook group, he doesn't always answer because there's so many fucking people in there. I think, if I remember correctly, it's probably like 40,000, if not more, people in there. So there's so many people in there. There's no way that dude can answer everything. But I've seen him in there answering shit before. I've seen him in there posting shit before, and I've seen people who work for him in there answering shit before, and it's kind of a free for all in there. So anytime someone's in there asking, everyone in there is people who do fucking marketing. So you're gonna get a bunch of answers from other people who do marketing, um, and things like that. So it's there. Most of the people, like 95% of those people, I would take advice from any day. There's like small 5%, and I'm not trying to shit on his group because this isn't something I think he can necessarily control, particularly with the amount of people in there. Um, and I think perhaps within this 5%, not all of them have bad intent or like are doing this with malicious intent. Some of them, I think they just got in too deep and now they're just trying to survive. And some of them, though, I think they know that they don't know what the fuck they're doing and like they know they're doing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't know if that makes sense. But what I'm saying is there's like that small 5% will be people asking questions about how to run ads for clients, that you really shouldn't be asking, because if you're asking that question, they need to be hiring someone else to run their ads. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that's bitchy of me, but it'll be like someone who's like, yeah, I met with a client, they have $1 million ad spend, but right now I have spent 500,000 with no sales. What do I do? And I'm just over exaggerating, but that's kind of like the degree to alarm that I have with some of the people with the posts they make to where I don't think they should be running ads. Uh, but I'm definitely over exaggerating. Like it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm just trying to articulate the alarm I feel sometimes when I read some of the posts in there. But fucking yeah. All right. But anyway, so I'm gonna link that group in there though. It is really good. I'm sorry I got off topic there. Fucking yeah, man. But yeah. All right.
In the agency have access to some big numbers, and we get to see across the board what's happening as well. So for a lot of you, as you're starting off on your spends, or managing fewer accounts, maybe you're not seeing the global picture. And I'm not saying we have enough to show a global picture, but certainly within the accounts we've got, we can see a lot of the trends that happen. So for example, if we've got 10 accounts and the CPMs go up at the same time and they're in different niches, well, guess what? That's probably something outside of our control, and we can make better decisions based on that as well. However, there are many situations, and forgetting the external factors, where CPM is totally in your control. So, we've got a situation with a client that we just brought on where in the hair care niche, I think it's about $25, $30 for CPM. Now, for some of you might think that's kind of normal. For others, you'd be like, wow, that's a lot. We have other clients that are getting $10, $12, $14. And the key difference has been on their organic and their content engagement. And that's something I want to cover off today, because I've been talking about this since 2018. And some people have listened, and there's an agency out in the US. And I remember at the time, he, I think 6 months later, said, what you said is absolutely true. And we're now putting it as part of our creative strategy. So they do videos and creative campaigns. And that's their competitive edge, that they're a creative agency. They also run ads, but the media buying isn't the important thing. They're not saying they're rock stars at media buying, but they are really good at creating content, and content across the funnel that's engaging, that gets good click-through rates, gets low negative feedback, gets high engagement, and it converts really well. And they're some of the signals that Facebook's looking for. So if you reverse back, what is it now, 10 minutes, when I was talking about the three major players within Facebook advertising, which is you, the advertiser, Facebook, and the user, all those things that I just discussed about engaging content, high conversion rate, etc., they're the signals that Facebook looks at. And it's really important to understand that, because then you can manipulate that to your advantage. When you understand that Facebook is a robot, it's a machine, there's machine learning and tech stuff going on. It's not a human that looks at your results and your website and things like that. It's code, essentially. And when code is in place, when you understand what Facebook needs, its inputs, its levers, and things like that, that's when you can start to leverage your own your own tools, I guess, and your tool set to make sure that you can take advantage of that as well. So what I want to do is just get you to understand how Facebook sees the world. Like, one of the things that I
So before we watch how he shows us how Facebook explains the world, I just wanted to say, uh, fucking bro, I had something I wanted to say that I like. You know how when you like, it's kind of like when you walk into the room to do something and then you forget what you're gonna do. Sometimes it's like that when I have an idea of something I want to say. So then I stop the video to click the button to go say it, and then it's like, oh wait, shit, what the fuck was I saying? God damn it, shit, fuck. But all right, so this is then where you improvise, right? And so then you just keep shit talking until you come up with some shit, right? So this is how you create a live stream. And now we're talking about content creation. And content creation is so important for the marketing to sales funnel, because content is what people see in their experience with you in order to in order to fucking go from awareness to consideration to decision, right? And so that, my friend, is the buyer's journey. And that is why understanding what Depesh Mandalia is implementing with the buyer's journey, with how Facebook works with the ad auction, um, is so fucking helpful. I don't think that's what I came here to say, but that's what ended up happening. All right.
See often is, for example, should I optimize for purchase? Why should I optimize for initiate checkout? Why should I optimize for add to cart, etc., etc.? There's reasons behind some of the suggestions, for example, I make when I say, okay, if purchase is not working, try a different pixel event. The naysayers will say, well, you should always go for purchase because they're the prime users. But this is just based on experience. So I'm not giving you opinions. This is based on hard evidence and experience. So just to reiterate, like, I want to draw this back out and kind of show you the relationship between the user and Facebook, and you actually, the advertiser. So, what Facebook are doing is they're pushing ads that way, and you're pushing your ads into Facebook and your spend, etc. And you want the user to take an action and ultimately enter your funnel. Like, that's your goal in most cases, is to get that user to take an action. It could be, subscribe to this. It could be a lead form. That's the funnel. It could be call us. It could be website. It could be visit us. Physical location. Doesn't matter. You've got some kind of goal in mind here. And often it's sometimes just to watch an ad, and that's fine as well. But ultimately, you've got an exit strategy. You want that user to come out of Facebook, and you want them to do something. That action costs Facebook. What I mean by that is when Facebook has that user in the news feed, as long as they stay in that news feed, Facebook has a higher chance of increasing engagement, increasing their revenue, stickability, all those kind of things. So for you to take that funnel, to take the user out and push them into a funnel, Facebook sees that as a negative action from their point of view. Obviously, they want advertisers to make money as well. So that's going to cost you money. So for example, when we say, let's say page post engagement, let's say video view, let's say traffic campaign, let's say we've got a conversion campaign. Each of these has a different value because you're going to reach out to different audiences. Now you can take one audience. It could be a 1% lookalike of purchasers. It doesn't matter. Whatever the audience is, generally these audiences are going to be cheaper, page post engagement, video views, than traffic, than conversion, because also the competition increases and also the value of what people are doing. So this is when you get clever at understanding the differences, you can actually build funnels where you can prime people in. So one of the common misunderstandings is, look, if you go into a conversion campaign, and let's say you've got the purchase pixel event, you've got the initiate checkout, you've got add to cart, for example, as the pixel events. What most people will tell you is these are the only people you want to go after, assuming purchase is what you're after, because obviously Facebook have identified them as purchasers. Either they've purchased in the last 30 days or they've purchased recently, whatever, 60, 90 days. And there's something about the user that Facebook has tagged that they're more likely to purchase than someone who's initiated checkout, for example. So, most people will say, this is your star audience and that's all you should optimize. The problem is that's also the most expensive audience generally.
So I just want to say, like, everything right here that he is discussing is what I didn't know. Actually, I should go this way, huh? Camera. Well, my computer screen is right here, so I have the urge to point like this. But then if I go this way, it aligns with the video, and then it's like I'm pointing towards the video. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Fuck shit. But whatever. Fucking So this shit, you know what I'm saying? Not this just doesn't feel right though because it's right here. Ah, fuck. You know what? We're gonna point this way towards the camera. That shit right. Wait, is that right? No, it's like that. Fuck. God damn it. All right. Fucking yeah, it's everything I wish I fucking knew before with marketing. So like when I was running ads back when I was doing shows, and yeah, they were like I got people in, but like my head count would typically on average be around 50. Sometimes I'd get 100 or more for my own personal shows, and that is for people who I was able to afford, lower budget, people who were not those bigger names in order to draw a bigger crowd. Whenever I was able to do marketing for bigger artists and bigger production companies and record labels, and for people that were bigger artists, I was able to actually uh, run ads for and do promotion and do marketing for people where I've, gotten up to thousands of ticket sales before. So sometimes I think it's like it can be dependent on the resources available to you, like what's going to happen with your sales. But even with all of those results, I could have done way better if I knew this shit then. Because at that time when I got those results, I only knew basically like how to boost posts, and I knew a little bit of business and ads manager, but I only knew and I didn't understand things like how to control or set my own dashboard to view my own metrics in a better way, or what the metrics meant, but at that point. I had to get my certifications, and that took a couple years, but then it took more time of actually being able to implement what I learned from those certifications and test it to then find strategies that worked. And so was starting to get there, but the missing pieces that I needed, I didn't really receive, I feel, until I had access to the Common Thread Collective and the Depesh Mandalia content in order to get even better return on investment. But before I had access to that, I have gotten things like 30 to 1 return on ad spend before running pay-per-click ads on Google. Things like that. So like I've done well with advertising before previously. It's just that like needing that but it's like when you understand what you did before you knew what you know now, it's just like it's just like, bruh, imagine if I could actually apply this. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I just really feel like it's so important for me to do this video, not because that these people need me to get the word out there, but it's because if there is anyone coming to my channel for what I know about marketing, I want them to be directed back here to know, like, go, this is the source of what connected those dots for me. Um, I feel like only thing that might make me a better candidate than Common Thread Collective or Depesh Mandalia for somebody else would be the access to me that you can get specifically, as well as whether or not you like my messaging and approach to business better. Because while I wouldn't be where I am in business without their information, there are critiques I have about the way I feel they move in business that I think that's what I like about myself, is that I do in a different way, if that makes sense. But I don't know if that's like vapid of me to say, or if that is just like being realistic about why I think people prefer some people over others, But anyway, I want to keep watching this shit. It's really good shit. Everything he's saying is just on point. And if there's any questions you have about it, I'm gonna be linking his Facebook group, and you can feel free to ask me as well. I'd love to chat because I love talking about this shit.
So what drives your decision making to use that audience or not? So once you understand what kind of makes up that the kind of process, it becomes easier to understand what to do. So one of the things that I often talk about is the Bear V algorithm. So I'll just describe that again here. I know some of you will know this already, but this plays a crucial part in understanding the algorithm and then your strategy to bring your CPMs down. So first of all, the bid makes a difference in your CPM. If you use auto bid, you're letting Facebook make that decision based on signals you're giving, and I'll talk about that signal. If you're using manual bid, you are overriding that. Now, when you go into manual bidding, and it is a bit more advanced, when you understand how to manipulate that, there is a general rule that the higher you bid, the better you can access the more expensive auctions and the better users, but it's not always the case. Then you have the estimated action rate. This is Facebook saying, right, this advertiser is after the purchase event. What's the chance of that actually happening? How do they measure that? Generally, your conversion rate percent. So Facebook's looking at that and saying, right, you're optimizing for purchase. What's the chance of that purchase happening? Now, if you've got no data, So it's a new account, new website, you've never run this before, then Facebook doesn't have anything to run by. And generally, it will give you better users in the auction because it has to start collecting that data. Over time, it will track your site conversion rate and feed that into the algorithm. So this is why conversion rate is important. Then you've got user value. This is about the engagement and how users are finding your ad experience and your landing page experience, your funnel experience, etc. And Facebook places a lot of value on this in the auction. So what is user value? One of the measures, click-through rate, because if there's a really good click-through rate, it could be that your ad is engaging and relevant. They look at things like site speed. So how fast is your website loading? That plays a big difference. And Google were the first ones that that created the research on this to show site speed and advertising and ROI and CPA. Those things are all aligned. So the faster your page loads, generally the better the conversion rate. And others have done lots of studies since. Google were also the first ones, I think about 2005, somewhere around the 2000s, where they introduced a quality score. I think it was called a quality score. And that was based on something very similar. So Facebook borrowed that and built that into their own algorithm because they're like, that makes sense. Because if the user has a good experience, the ad is good, the ad engagement's good, the complaints are low, the conversion's high, the page loads fast, etc., equals the user is happy, equals the advertiser gets good performance, equals everyone's happy. So things like click-through rate, site speed, but there's also other signals that Facebook gives you as well. So you've got the quality engagement scores as well within Facebook as well. So previously this was the relevance score, and now Facebook has broken that down into 3 different measures, which looks at your essentially looking at your targeting, looking at your ad engagement, and also your landing page experience. So this is what Facebook break that down into. If your targeting is good, your ad experience is good, your landing page experience is good, that plays a big part into reducing your CPMs because you're giving the user a good experience. So this is why I think that unless you're seriously taking your lander and your funnel into account when you're running campaigns, you're missing out on a huge part of the equation of getting the low CPMs and getting the best auctions in the best users in the auctions. So there is a correlation between getting the best users and also the CPM score. It's not always that the CPM is cheapest for the best users. Sometimes it's more expensive, but maybe the conversion rate goes up as well. So that's something to bear in mind. And then you've got things like the negative signals at the ad level. So negative ad signals. So for example, when you have an ad, you can choose to stop seeing ads by this advertiser. You can also choose to report a complaint, like this is a spam, this is harassment, this is that. What Facebook are trying to do is ask the user specifically and say, are you happy with this ad? And if that user comes back with a negative signal, that has a massive negative impact on that ad's performance. So sometimes you'll see that the costs for specific ads go up, but actually maybe the ad set overall is okay and the other ads are okay. If I see that, it gives me an indication that maybe there's a problem at the ad level. So, that's one of the signals to look for. But the other one, which I think goes neglected, is also comments. Because when you get negative comments in your ads, they can stack up. The more and more people that add negative sentiment, so Facebook are looking at the comments as well as the engagement overall, that can also have an impact of higher CPM because Facebook are now punishing you. This is Facebook's way of saying, hey guys, there's a problem here. You need to sort this out because the user's not happy. And if the user's not happy, hey, we're not happy either. So we're going to charge you more. So there's, on the one side, if I go back to the previously when I talk about external factors and a few things you can't control, you should understand that there's so much more in your control when you understand what Facebook are after. So this is why I place so much emphasis on conversion rate, on landing page speed, on ad quality, and also the fact that, when I do my targeting, I don't put as much effort into my audiences as I do my creative and my offer. Because the thing is, when you've got a high click-through rate but a low conversion rate, that's telling Facebook that there's a disconnect here. So I don't want your takeaway to be the highest click-through rate is the best click-through rate. No, you want to balance between a good click-through rate and a good conversion rate. And I'm sure the question will be, well, what is a good click-through rate? What is a good conversion rate? Generally, this is just a universal thing, and it will kind of depend across niche and vertical. Click-through rates between 1% and 3%, for example, are generally okay.
So everything he's saying is fucking amazing. I didn't like he's saying so much good shit. It's like hard for you to want to interrupt him. To be honest, it's easier for me to interrupt the other dude with the way he speaks because he uses more of the technical terms, and Depesh uses technical terms, but he puts it into more real examples in a way. Versus the other dude stays so technical, it's easy to interrupt that shit because it's like, all right, enough of that. Let's break this shit up because come on, dude. It's like you're gonna put me to sleep, but it's like, because it kind of makes me feel like Michael Scott whenever Michael Scott sees Toby, but that's with love, with love. Fucking Depesh Mandalia, I'm more captivated by what he's saying because I can see the connection from what this diagram shows me, the connection between running an ad and how the data entry you're doing in the ad setup connects to the buyer journey. And to me, it is a visual representation of the connection between a marketing pipeline and a sales funnel. Um, in a way, you know what I'm saying? Like, so fucking, it's the connection between the actions we are taking to get people to go from not knowing who we are to buying from us to staying loyal to us, as well as what does the customer move through in order to want to continue a relationship with us. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so fucking, that's what I really like about this shit is when you understand how you're improving the user experience through the data, and you're able to transform those numbers from thinking of it as just statistics or numbers or dollar signs or whatever into understanding what are the individual stories like of the people who are connecting with you. You know what I mean?
When it's below 1%, something's telling me your targeting is off or your messaging is off. So there's a problem there. So that's the kind of range I'd be looking for. And again, it depends on niche and things like that. But that's what I'd be aiming for on my click-through rate. On my conversion rate, this is dependent on.
Oh yeah, and another thing is where he's talking about the 1% conversion rate. I tell people that all the time. Like you just test an ad. You gotta make sure you're doing where people fail with ads is they're not um doing the numbers for what it would take to hit that 1% conversion rate. When it comes to organic advertising for those who are not running paid ads, particularly, and so when you understand those numbers for what you need in order to get a sale, um, then I feel like it's more realistic to create a plan because you're able to follow a plan that you need in order to get those numbers instead of giving up too soon because you don't know what you're working towards or for or if you're there yet. So if you know that you've hit a certain threshold and you've not achieved a conversion, then you know you need to change either your offer or your message. But if you haven't reached that threshold, how do you know if that message is working or not if you haven't given it a full chance? You know what I'm saying? Because it could work. Um, so it's just things like that. And yeah, so let's just keep
On your average order value and where the product sits in terms of how easy it is to explain and understand. So, I use Maslow's hierarchy of needs to understand where that product sits in terms of that person's needs. I use what I call the core four, and I look at kind of breaking out the key reasons why someone will want to buy. So does it solve a problem? Does it create a new opportunity? Those come into constructing my ads because I want to combine a good click-through rate with a good conversion rate. Conversion rate is not just what you do on your website. So conversion rate isn't, I'm going to create an amazing landing page and I'm just going to drive loads of traffic into it and things are going to be great. Conversion rate is equally traffic quality and landing page and funnel quality. So you need to balance both of these out. So what I would be looking at is, whilst I'm trying to work on the ads to create a good click-through rate, I'm also measuring and monitoring my conversion rate as well. That's exactly what Facebook are looking at, and I know that. So that's why I'm trying to balance those things out, so that I'm giving Facebook the best positive signals. And by the way, on most of my accounts, I rarely do manual bidding. The reason for that is when you've got a really good conversion rate, when you've got a really good click-through rate, and all of these, you're giving Facebook all the right signals about what's happening, Facebook automatically bid you at the highest level to get the best user, because it's in Facebook's interest now, because what you're saying is, I'm giving the user the best experience I can. And therefore, with the funnel performing, Facebook looks at that and says, I'm going to give you more traffic. I'm actually going to bid higher for you because you're doing our job for us. You're giving the user a great experience. I've got all the signals I need. I can see what's going on. I'm going to keep bidding higher and higher for you, and you're going to win more auctions. That's Facebook helping you out. And it doesn't mean your CPMs necessarily go up. Sometimes they will, just because you're accessing more premium audiences. But when you're doing manual bidding and all the signals are all set, when you're doing auto bidding and when all the signals are set up in a positive way, then Facebook just lets it go. And this is where we are able to scale up using auto bid, because we put a lot of time into working this out.
So I actually really like everything he's saying, and right now, and the things that I don't like about him was in the. You know what? I'm not gonna mention it right now because I'm gonna pull up what I don't think I like about him. I'm gonna find it before I speak on it, so that way I'm not misquoting anything. So I'm gonna wait on that. I'm sorry, but there was some. I'm just gonna say there was something in one of his books I read where he referred to a politician that I don't feel politically aligned with, where he was referring to that guy for a business strategy. And so, yeah, I'm gonna pull that up in a different live stream for you guys, and we'll discuss that shit. But what I was fucking saying was, I really like what he's talking about with bid, because previously my strategy has been, because I can be very stingy, and so if I'm worried about spend, I'll do manual bid, and I will do really, really tight cost caps before I release my cost cap, so to speak. Um, and that's if I have a low budget to test with. If I'm not worried about financial security on running the ad, because obviously I'm not going to spend money just to spend money or anything like that, but if funds are not tight, so to speak, then you can kind of have a little more fun with the placement in terms of the risk. And so in that case, I always agree. I feel like for that scenario, yeah, like if you're not in a struggling situation with your ad spend, it is best practice to go with what he's saying. However, sometimes, you have a specific ad budget you want to utilize, but it's a very low ad budget, and you don't have that money to give the Facebook that leeway to go get you, um, to go test what the best audience is going to be with your ad auction. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, I know I have this amount of money. This is the minimum amount I can spend per click in order to get the return on ad spend I need. And this is the budget I'm going to spend to do so. And sometimes that's how it has to be, because your budget is what it is, and you need a certain number of sales, you know what I'm saying, in a certain time frame. So if that's the case, then absolutely tighten the fuck up out of your I cannot speak. Tighten up your cost caps. You know what I'm saying, with your manual bid. I think that's a great move. But for general speaking, if you're not stuck in that mode and you're actually trying to create long term sustainability and you're figuring that out with your advertising and you're thinking long term, then yeah, this is what the fuck I think you need to be doing. I agree. So I just wanted to put that out there because I have talked about before really, really tight cost caps. So I just wanted to discuss real quick when and why I would or do use each strategy.
And I see so many advertisers leaving money on the table. And instead, what they do is they go into manual bid. Now, on manual bid, you can override Facebook's view of how good you are as an advertiser. So, for example, I see forum group messages all the time about, things weren't working. I use this manual bid strategy. Now all of a sudden things are working, but my costs have gone up, and things become quite manual. And one thing about the way I like to run my ad campaigns is to minimize the amount of effort for the maximum number of results. So for example, when we've got our campaigns and our funnels really working as well as they can be, and we've built our ad campaign funnels in the best way, we're choosing the right objectives, we're doing everything that Facebook needs, you actually find that you can spend more and spend less time on your ads because everything's just working in the way Facebook needs it to work. This is the technical side of Facebook. So, for example, in the BPM method, when I talk about B, which is the brand part of BPM, brand-driven performance marketing, everything that goes into my ad campaigns is all about understanding the user. I want to really get my ads to the point where I really can speak their language. I understand their pain points. I can relay a story or a creative that shows them that I understand and I've got a solution for them. That kind of effort right up front, that's where we actually spend a lot of time, not just launching our campaigns, but reviewing every 2 to 4 weeks. What can we do to bring new ideas into this? Because the stronger this works, the less you have to worry about your targeting. So let me give you an example. If I go back to my example of women 25 to 45, let's say, and I'm doing a hair care campaign, well, guess what? Most of that audience have hair, right? Most of those.
I love how I included this video in with my hair routine uh, playlist and journey. I had never watched this video before, so I didn't know he was talking about that. But I love it because now I'm like, see, this makes this all fit more and better. Um, but yeah, I want to let's see how he would market to women specifically. He said.
People will care about their hair. Some of those people want to spend more time on it than others, etc., etc.
Yeah, some of us have a spreadsheet, some of us don't. Totally get it. Totally.
With that in mind, is it better for me to go down to so many levels on understanding their interests and doing interest-based targeting and splitting and laser targeting and things that were more prevalent back in 2015 that are less required now? Or what if I just had an ad which called out my ideal prospect's pain point? So I'm not just going out there and say, hey, if you have hair, we have a solution for you to make the care easier. No, what's the actual pain point? So for example, let's say that you've got hair that's generally dry and it's brittle and things like that. That's a part of a problem. And if your problem is you don't have a hair care product that nourishes it or whatever it is, I'm just making it up now. If I can identify your core pain, and bear in mind that audience, 25 to 45 females, let's say US, it's going to be a huge audience. Within that one audience, there's going to be multiple angles. If each of my ads is just focusing on those different angles, then I'm going to opt in the people that are interested, and the people that are not interested are going to just ignore the ad. That plays a part in the user value, because what we're doing now is we're attracting good quality engagement. So that's the likes, the comments, but also the clicks. So therefore, if I'm getting a click-through rate of 1 or 2 or 3%, and I'm getting good conversion because the ad and the lander and the funnel, they're all congruent. Congruent means that whatever I'm talking about in my ad, I'm also talking about on my lander, and I'm reinforcing through my funnel. and I'm carrying on that conversation. So for example, I've spoken previously about in some cases, I would create a landing page per persona or avatar or problem. So for example, maybe I've got a male product, maybe I've got a female product, maybe my lander just talks to them in this is great for whatever hair it is, etc. Doesn't mean you have to have a separate landing page in each case. But what I'm trying to do is maximize my conversion rate after I get good quality users clicking through the ad, so that when Facebook sees that data coming back, they're like, this user is having a great experience, they're converting, lower CPMs, better users in the auction. So everything comes around in that kind of format to make sure that when I'm running these campaigns, I'm constantly looking at giving Facebook high quality signals back so that they can keep giving me the best users for the best price. So for example, when I talk about CPM, sometimes when you have a high CPM, but you also have a high conversion rate, that generally means that you're accessing more premium users in the auction. And premium meaning, for example, if you even take purchases, there's going to be a split of purchases between those that have a high average order value, those that are bought repeatedly through Facebook ads, those that are bought in your particular niche. There's so many different levels, even just within that small group of purchases, for example, and that's going to dictate how much you pay, but also the conversion rate as well. So they're all just different factors that go into understanding the conversion rate. And that's also why, in the BPM method, we have a whole section dedicated to cost control and cost reduction and things like that. And each of these strategies are as you need them. So they're not designed as you need to go through all of them sequentially. When you understand the different types of elements that go into cost control, and the first part is just understanding that. For example, one of them is page engagement. Now, with the Facebook page, this is something which I spoke to the Facebook auction insights team back in 2018 to understand organic reach of pages and the link between Facebook pages and ad accounts. One of the things that they told me at the time was so it wasn't quite on record, but this is through testing we've found this as well. The more engaged people are on your Facebook page, the lower your CPMs become as well. What's the reason for that? We can thank low quality drop shippers, low quality affiliates, low quality brands that don't care about the user experience for this. Because what happens is, and this is a typical example, if you're a drop shipper and you're only here for the money, you're not really caring about your page. So you're not going to update your page. You're not going to put a nice banner on. You're not going to worry about engagement and things like that. Facebook know that. So they've built that into their model to say, if this advertiser does not care about their page, well, guess what? We're going to increase your cost. It's not as simple as that, but that's one of the big factors that go in. So understanding how important your page is to your CPMs is super important as well. And there are strategies, obviously, for improving that. Then we have what I call the Viper test. So viral page engagement reach test. What we're trying to do here is, when we're in a position where we need to improve the engagement at a page level, we start testing different page posts to see which ones are the most engaging, promote them more, and create more content like that on our page as well. And that allows you to also have ideas for your ad campaigns. So that's a whole strategy in its own page as well. Page content research, it's kind of as it is finding out what things people are engaging with as well. Page quality scores. So for example, especially for e-com and maybe some other niches as well, if I mentioned just now that Facebook are looking at low quality brands and sites that don't care about their page, Facebook also look at which ones care about their customers. That's why Facebook launched the survey 2 to 4 weeks after someone's purchased, to ask them essentially, were you happy with this brand? Were you happy with the product, etc.? And why do they introduce that? Because of low quality sellers out there. So for example, if your page score is low, you can get punished. And in fact, you do get punished with low CPMs as well. So it's like everywhere you look, that cost that you're paying is being tested. Facebook are testing you on so many different levels. I would argue that you should not be waiting for Facebook to ask your customers if they're happy. You should be doing that yourself. And we've got strategies on that as well on kind of improving that. Ad quality scores, we've just talked about that, and looking at the ad level and loading up the 3 engagement columns and looking at the scores. Now, what Facebook do is they judge you on who you're bidding against, so the other competitors, and how they are performing. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out on this is if you have, for example, let me just bring back my drawing utensil. So
He has been saying so much good shit again that I didn't want to interrupt, but I figured while he's looking for a drawing, it's a good time to just discuss. Um, all of what he's explaining right now, if you've never used like the actual structure of ad manager, some of this may not be making sense to you in terms of how it connects to the user experience. Um, but if you've been there, done that, then you're probably like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, this is good shit. Or maybe you have your own reasons for running ads as to why you think that you have a better way of doing things. And if so, please tell us in the comments. So we can, have access to other information and differing opinions to consider. But, fucking what I really like about what he's talking and been explaining on this journey is when you understand how the ad auction works and the data entry you're doing on the business ad manager side is being received by people on the other end, that is what you need to then be able to understand what on your website or what in your advertising needs to change in order for you to make more sales. And a lot of people, they just don't know what to look at to understand um, why aren't they getting more sales. And by understanding what these metrics are, you're then able to go look on the back end of either your Facebook ads or Google Analytics or your website analytics somehow. Um, and from those two places, see where do the drop-offs occur, you know? And so if you're not even getting people to your website because your ad's not performing at all, then obviously the problem is with your ad. If people are clicking on your ad, but then you're still not getting much interaction on your website, the only time your ad should need to change at that point is if there is a misalignment between the message and what it is that you're doing. Other than that, if people are clicking on the ad, they're obviously fucking interested. So then from there, what needs to change is either your landing page or wherever the fuck you sent them, or your offer. And from there, you have to use your analytics to kind of figure that out. If you've gotten a certain amount of traffic to your landing page without moving your offer, then obviously the issue is with your offer. Because if you have a good enough offer, people aren't going to give a fuck about what the fuck your landing page looks like. Um, so yeah. So let's let Depesh Mandalia explain this shit professionally. Here we go.
if I just move this to the side. So one important thing I want to get across from this is a common question I have on, well, why should we optimize for different parts of the funnel? Now, let's say you've got advertiser A and you've got advertiser B. So Facebook sends 100 clicks into each. So Facebook are you create your clicks from the ads and 100 clicks come through. Let's say, for example, advertiser A converts 5 people from every 100 click, advertiser B, 1 person. So essentially that's your conversion rate, 5% and 1%. When Facebook look at this, what are they seeing? They're seeing that advertiser A is actually converting more people than advertiser B. So there must be something about advertiser A that's performing better. What they don't care about, or maybe don't look at as much, is what the average order value is. So for example, let's say you have a $50 AOV here, and you have a $350 AOV here. You might look at that and say, actually, a 1% conversion rate is okay. It's an expensive product. For this one, you're like, I'm really happy, 5% conversion rate. If you look at that, your return on ad spend could be lower for your $50 product. Maybe it's okay. Your return on ad spend could be really wild, and it's great. For example, it could cost you $50 to acquire that $50 customer. Facebook don't really care if you're making money or not. Obviously, they look at ROAS and they're trying to give you better users. But in my experience and running this for many years, conversion rate has a bigger impact on what Facebook see on your site than average order value. So obviously, if you're doing webinars and leads and things like that, then generally conversion rate is what you're looking at. That conversion rate, Facebook is looking at based on what you're optimizing for. So if you're optimizing for conversion and purchases, then Facebook's looking at that purchase conversion rate. If you're optimizing for initiate checkout, if you're optimizing for add to cart, that's the conversion rate that Facebook is looking at. So for example, if for every 100 people that click through here, let's say 30 people add to cart, so 30% go to add to cart, maybe here also 30 people add to cart. Now all of a sudden, your conversion rates are actually similar. So you've got a 30% conversion rate here. What happens here? Facebook says, actually, both advertisers are performing really well, and I'll give them more users like that because they're given a good experience. Your CPM generally drops and you get access to better users. One argument is if you're optimizing for add to cart, you get lower quality users. Generally, what this means is they might not be identified as purchasers. Maybe they haven't purchased in 60 or 90 days. Maybe they've just been adding to cart more than anything. Does not mean they are not purchasers. So for example, when we do higher ticket promotions, we often test purchase, but then we end up going with add to cart or initiate checkout because this gives us top of funnel stability. What that means is when you're running your campaigns, $1,000 a day, 2,000, 5, 10,000 at the top of the funnel, because we can get stability at the top of the funnel and because our retargeting campaigns are working so well, we actually get better performance. And what happens now is retargeting is optimized for purchase. And in that case, we could be converting at 5% or more. Facebook sees our retargeting campaign and says, hey, that's really good. You're getting a really high conversion rate. We'll give you more users. At the top of the funnel, we're converting at 30%. And Facebook's like, hey, you're performing really well. We'll give you some better users. So I want you to understand why these strategies come into play when it comes to stabilizing your ad account and giving you good performance. Not to say all the time, it has to be ATC, but certainly the higher the average order value, the higher, the longer it takes someone to generally convert. So for example, even we've got an apparel company at the moment, the average order value is about $100. We know whatever return on ad spend number we get today, in 2 weeks' time, it will double because whatever clicks we generate today, they will trickle into sales in 5, 7, 10 days because that's the consideration process that people go through. You can't force that. You can try and run even more retargeting ads, but that's through 18 months, 2 years of running ads for this particular brand. We know that there is that conversion path. So we do, top of funnel is to bring them in, and then we work on optimizing and converting where we can through retargeting and trying to get them through to our email list. But that has given us on that particular account, which I think it's like $1 million a month in revenue on that particular account. The CPM in the US for females, I think 25 to 50 is about $10 or $12. And it's been consistent like that for years. That means that we are doing many of the things right. I wouldn't say everything, there's still a few opportunities, but that means we're doing so much right to tell Facebook that we care about the user. So going back to our initial drawing, we've worked really hard on giving Facebook the signals. And that means that Facebook give us the best users at the best cost. And
So, connecting that right there. So when you look at right here, it says bpm.mykajabi.com. He's showing like his different things. These are the types of training materials you get by going into his BPM training program. So when we looked at Common Thread Collective, we were watching Common Thread Collective, how they plugged in 2 different ad slots into their advertising and how they were able to monetize their lead generation video. through sponsorships. Double monetization there. Well, Depesh Mandalia is doubling on his lead generation through uh, giving you value, so you would want a reason to convert, and then sliding in one of his offers here showing what you get out of that. So both of these are two different ways you can see how to utilize advertising in your content generation. And what I really like about what Depesh Mandalia is doing is showing when he's telling you add to cart is great on top of funnel. Um, and that way you have the purchase for your bottom funnel. And then for me, I'm like, I wonder if he's testing initiate checkout on middle funnel. But um, when you have these types of things, like this is where you understand, okay, how do I set up my ad campaign so that I am paying for a different message to be sent to people based on the very specific actions they have taken with me. So I'm reaching the right person at the right time in the right place. And that's what I really like about what he's bringing together here. All right, let's keep finishing this up.
And that's hard to compete against when you're a competitor, because when you start to enter the market that we're in right now, you're not going to get $10, $12 for that audience. It takes time. And it means going through what we've done and set up and step by step, bringing the right things in. Then you've got auction insights and campaign objectives and different strategies. But the key thing I want you to take away from this is, when we talk about CPMs and costs going up, separating the external from the internal and realizing just how much is in your control. So, even within the BPM method, it's the third part of our optimizations. I talk about average order value optimization because that gives you a bit of space to give you some profitability so you can scale up. And obviously it's more for businesses that have a variable average order value. Then I talk about conversion rate optimization, and there's a reason that section is so deep, because that plays a big part on overall more sales, lower costs, etc., etc. And then we come into optimizing our costs. So there's a lot to unpack from this, and I'd suggest thinking about where you are right now and where your biggest opportunities are. So if you're converting low right now, is it because your traffic isn't as strong as it needs to be? Do some analysis on that landing page and figure out what you can do better, whether it's the traffic or the targeting or the ad or the creative. And generally that's where I would start. Then I look at my landing page. Then I look at my landing page speed. And I'm looking at kind of ways to optimize that. And it's step by step working that out so that you can get your CPMs reduced.
See, I love how I was thinking of like um, improving your ads in terms of are you getting sales? And I love how he's done following this up. Well, he's not done following this up because, but he's done following up his own content with that concept in regards of reducing the amount you're spending per lead. Which of course aligns with the title of the video, reduce costs right now using these strategies. Boop, that's what he's doing. So yeah, I love that. I love that. Alrighty, let's keep going.
So that was a lot to take in, I'm sure. Hopefully that's given you a lot of food for thought. I'm just going to have a look at the questions and see what's come up. Is the Q&A box. So Jay, when you run a collaboration campaign, do you set the min ad set spend per day to divide the budget equally across all ad sets each day? Or do you leave some room? So first of all, just give me questions on CPM. So this is a coaching session where I pick out a topic and we go through detail on that particular topic. I'll answer some other stuff as well, but this is really about making sure you understood the key elements of CPM, the challenges, the opportunities, etc. So just fire over questions on cost and cost control, because if you're, for example, running a business where Q4 is important, you would generally want to make sure by the time you enter and you're through Q3, you've done all your cost optimizations and then you're ready to scale up in Q4 as well. So it's just really important to understand this topic as well. So Lars, speaking about clients and saying spending 68K like it's nothing. That's a goal for me. Listen, look, we've all started somewhere, so that's not certainly not an overnight thing. When you're talking about post engagement, is it about the Facebook page, not Instagram? So I'm yet to see any data which suggests the Instagram page has an impact on CPM and auction for ads. Maybe there is. I just haven't had a look at Instagram, but certainly without doubt, 100% your Facebook page does have an impact on both CPM and the quality of the audience as well. So Simon, is CPM the main metric to focus on, or do you combine CPM and CPC? Simon, CPM is not a main metric at all. It's like it's like the fuel gauge or the temperature gauge in your car. When you're driving, you don't look at that to dictate what you're actually doing. If your fuel is low, then you know you need to take an action. If your fuel is high, you just kind of keep an eye on it. That's how I see CPM. So when I'm running ad accounts, I'm not constantly tracking CPM. I might have a look once a week just to see what the trends are like. Generally, I don't look at CPC in too much detail unless my cost per acquisition is not performing, because cost per click and conversion rate are the things that impact cost per acquisition. So if I know my CPA is not in a good place, then I'll look at CPC and stuff like that. So I don't want you to take away that now you need to monitor CPM every day and make decisions based on that. That's not the case. Like I mentioned in previously, if your CPM is not in a good place, but overall your ROAS or your CPA is in a good place, it's just something you need to keep an eye on the side. If all your metrics are out and CPM is super high, then maybe you need to prioritize it. So Lars, see, most brands focusing more on IG than Facebook. And that does happen as well. And I think it's just getting the balance right between what you're doing on both those pages as well. What does good page engagement look like? So post per week, engagement per post. I think I shared something many months ago on this. So when you look at your number of fans, generally the most you can reach organically, and this is just a generalization, is 10% of your fans. So if you've got 10,000 fans, as a general rule, you can't access more than 1,000 people, just the way the organic algorithm works. And it could be less in many cases as well. So we just did this analysis for one of our clients, and they've got a UK and a US Facebook page for their two separate businesses. And the UK page averages 30% organic reach. So on average, 30% of the total number of fans are getting are responding and engaging with our page post. And then it's 5% for the US. What's the difference? In the UK, for the last probably 18 months, they've posted every single day. They post engaging content, they engage with their customers, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the UK page has like 50,000, maybe more than that. And they've paid a lot more attention to their UK page. In the US, I believe they have 6,000 fans and they barely post. So that's the simplest example of post per week engagement and stuff like that. And they're only reaching 5% of those 6,000. So what, 300 people, that's not a lot. So in order to increase that, and we've just taken on the US responsibility, we are going to go through these exact same steps to get that engagement up. Now, 6,000 fans is not that much. So we're looking to increase the number of likes on the page. And the best way we've found to do that is when you're running ads or you're running content on your page, click on the little like icon on the post. It will pop up the people that have liked the post or the ad, and it will show you who's actually liked your page already. And all you need to do is hit the invite link to invite them to like your page. There are external tools to do this. Bear in mind, they're all against policy. So I would not recommend using them. I know a lot of people do. Just bear that in mind that it's against policy. So if you do use an external tool for this, and there's Chrome plugins, make sure it's as non-robotic as possible. So
I think it's hilarious. He's like, this is against policy. Don't do this. If you're going to go do something against policy. But before all of that, what I really liked what he was explaining with cost per impression in terms of gas is I've always told people that not paying attention to their return on ad spend or to what is their return on investment, what are their numbers doing whenever they're running ads, it's like driving a car without paying attention to the speedometer. You know what I'm saying? And I really feel like him so that's the speed, right? That's how fast you're going. That's how much money you're spending, how quickly you're spending, or your money, or how quickly you're making money. However quickly you're spending or making money would be your speed, would your return on ad spend, and the way I process it. And so I really like how he's talking about cost per impression in terms of gas, because you need gas to get speed, just like you need traffic to get sales. You know what I'm saying? So I really like that. And then I didn't want to interrupt the follow up. I was gonna pause it when the follow up question with the next question, but then I didn't. That follow up question was kind of like a further explanation of how cost per impression isn't a metric you necessarily, because you don't need to get gas every day. You know what I'm saying? So, um, unless you're going on a road trip, but I don't know. But fucking something like that. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I really liked where he was going with that, and I think where he's going next is pretty fucking funny to me too. So let's watch this.
Robotic would be it goes through, it clicks it, and it just, every half a second says invite, 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 invite. That's a guaranteed profile ban or going into Facebook jail, which means you can't like or comment or share on a post. But the way we do it, for example, is we have our customer service rep once a week just do this process, but vary the time between invites as well. And it just helps you to bulk up the likes on the page, which then helps you to work on engagement and things like that, because these are people who have shown an interest in your post or your post or your page publication as well. Simon, is unique outbound click through more important than standard click through? So I use outbound click through. I don't use unique, but either is fine. But I would say outbound click is better because when you've got multiple creatives running, so for example, you've got instant collection ads. If you're using link click-through rate, often it will include links within the actual instant collection as well, which don't count. Like if someone clicks a link and opens up and expands the products that they're looking at, that can count as a link click, but it doesn't count as a click into your actual website. That's why outbound click was actually created a few years ago. So I prefer using outbound click for sure. Great competitive advantage, as not many people using it. Did you speak about Welling Media that is focusing on content? Absolutely. And honestly, he's taken that knowledge up to so many new levels. It's amazing what those guys have done, but it's just so simple. Like if you want a case study, go look at Welling Media, go look at what they're actually producing and kind of how they're going about doing it. They focus probably 80%, 90% on creative and offers and messaging and ads and creatives and funnels, and probably 10 to 20% on media buying. Compare that to most ad agencies out there, where it's 80% media buying and only 20% on creative and stuff. And look who's successful and who's not. And I think the clues are there. Raphael talked about conversion rate in prospecting and retargeting. Does it have an impact on prospecting if you have better numbers in the retargeting? So does it have an impact on the prospecting? I think overall it can have an impact at the account level and your pixels collecting data. But the thing I'm looking at is the signals I'm giving back to Facebook at the ad set and the ad level. So obviously, if you're running prospecting, then the ad is different at the top of the funnel than if you're running ads for your retargeting. So that's what I'm looking at. Can I give Facebook positive signals at every interaction? So when that ad's in that newsfeed, can I give Facebook the positive signals that my ad is good, my click-through rate's good, my negative experience is low, et cetera, et cetera. Then once they come through the site, like I said, Facebook looking at page speed, funnel performance. Are people, like, for example, one of the big negative signals that Facebook pick up is if someone clicks an ad and they land on your site, but within 30 seconds, they bounce back and go back to Facebook, essentially that's a bounce. So, talk about bounce rate.
Right. I love everything that he's saying right now. And I also really love what he's talking about with the sales funnel. Again, he's talking about top, middle, bottom, and he's talking about prospecting, which is part of your cold contacting or top of funnel marketing. If you're confused about any of that, I have done live streams on this material already, and I'm gonna link that in either the comments or the description later. But yeah, fucking or you can go check my page for some of that shit. Fucking but yeah, so what he's talking about right now, not enough people reflect on their bounce rate in regards to marketing. They'll be looking at their click through rate and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. But then they're not paying attention to how long are people spending on their site, whether or not they're making a sale, and what is the next step of their ad performance. And so that's where a lot of marketing and sales teams will come into conflict, where marketers are saying, well, I'm doing really good because I have a good click through rate. And they're not paying attention to their bounce rate. And so when the sales team comes in and they're just like, well, we have no good leads, so figure your shit out, bitch. Um, fucking, there will be conflict because marketing will struggle to admit that they're not looking at shit, or sometimes they don't know better, things like that. Um, and so that's why it's like understanding these concepts and clearing it all up reduces friction in the workflow across the board. I love this shit.
In Google Analytics, Facebook see that as a bounce as well if they don't take an action. So the action could be that they add to cart, they sign up to your email, and whatever it is, maybe view another page. That's a positive action. So if you, for example, and this is why I've been telling people for many years, don't delay your pixel fire. Because how does Facebook know whether someone's engaging on your page? It's because the pixel exists. That pixel is collecting all the HTML on your website. And when someone clicks from Facebook to your site, the pixel is the beacon. It's the thing that's telling Facebook what's actually happening on the site. So I know there's been some talk.
So this is also from 3 years ago. At this time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're moving on from even referring to it as the pixel altogether, which everyone still basically calls it the pixel because that's kind of what it still fucking is. Fuck them. But it's now also being referred to the CAPI, which stands for Conversion API. So when you hear people talk about Conversion API and Pixel, and sometimes there's a difference in terms of the origin. There is a difference between you would have to create your Facebook a Pixel and then set up specific Conversion API events to go with your Pixel. But now, today, it's kind of used like interchangeably, or like a conversion API is the pixel in a way based on the setup. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think I am.
Over many years about people saying, oh, you should delay the pixel fire and, so that your retargeting audiences have the best people. Well, actually, if you delay your pixel fire, what does Facebook see? It sees nothing. So if it sees nothing, Facebook's assuming your page is still loading. So, you might, I've had lots of discussions about this to explain to people why it's wrong. But if you delay your pixel firing, let's say 10 seconds, as far as Facebook's concerned, your page took 10 seconds to load. That's not good. So, that's just something a side thing to bear in mind as well. How does CPM compare for that company in the UK and US? In the UK, we're getting £9 CPMs. In the US, we're getting $25 to $30 CPM. So it's a huge difference. And it's the same product. So they've set it up separately, that there's a UK and a US base, separate pages, separate fulfillment, etc. And for the last 12, 18 months, they've just not taken US seriously enough. And then they've considered shutting down the US business. And we've told them and actually, if you look at the conversion rates, US converts at the same conversion rate as the UK, which is, so it's an average order value of about $20. UK is profitable, so you can imagine our CPA is that much lower. The conversion rates in the UK and US are between 5 and 7% for this product. So, when I look at it commercially, your product is selling. You just can't get the best price. That's an easy, or not an easy, but that's a clear path that we can follow, because if you're getting good conversion rates, which are matching UK, you've got the same average order value, but your cost is that much higher, we can bring that down. And that's what we're focusing on as well.
You see, this is why I love bringing it back to where he's telling you, when you look at the numbers and you pay attention to what's happening at the metrics at different stages, that's where you're able to make decisions that are best for you to have the most profitable results. And I love that because that's how you take the understanding where we have uh, grasping profitability with Common Thread Collective and then scale it with the Depesh Mandalia concepts.
Lars, client of mine selling bags, experience that the email list is super vital. Focus on lead gen for VIP club. Does that affect CPM too? Is it should get higher conversion rates? Absolutely, that helps. So yeah, that's a good thing. Running, and this is something I really recommend you do more. Doesn't matter what you're selling, what niche, what product, etc. Whether it's a service, whether it's e-com or anything like that. Don't not do lead gen. Like, do lead gen, because especially with the iOS 14 changes coming up and the lack of tracking and things like that, I think lead gen is going to come back to the forefront of, if I can't track you all the way through my funnel, then give me your email so I can track you through email, because that's completely yours at that point. You don't rely on Facebook and the pixel and things like that. Yes, you can still keep serving them ads, but pulling them out is definitely a recommendation. If you're running a lead campaign and it's in Facebook using lead forms, or you're just using a website lead, then as long as you're getting a good conversion rate and Facebook's seeing good conversion rate come back, then that's a positive signal as well. Simon, do you use the same metrics for lead gen ads, or are they more expensive? Do you use the same metrics, or are they more expensive? I'm not sure the connection between the two. So for lead gen ads, I'm looking at,
I don't understand that question at all because you don't pay for metrics unless you're paying for a different analytics service. But when you're running ads, the metrics are built into the ad platform. You know what the fuck I'm saying? Or is Google Analytics free? Like what? So I don't understand that question on premise, but let's keep watching.
cost per click and conversion rate as to what my cost per lead is. Like, they're the two metrics that influence that. So for example, when I'd run lead forms, generally conversion could be 20, 30%, and the click-through cost per click is generally low. However, and this is probably 8 out of 10 times, when I've run lead form lead gen versus website lead gen, although it costs me more on the website to capture the lead, the conversion, the quality is generally better. Why is that? There's a few different factors. Number one, when you do a lead gen on Facebook, it defaults by pulling in their email that they use for Facebook. Now, me, for example, I signed up with Facebook in 2007, and it's an email account I don't really use. So if I was to see a lead ad and I clicked it and I just used the default Facebook email, and I wasn't really thinking about changing it, then that email that you send me for that amazing offer or funnel or anything like that, it's probably going to end up in my kind of spam email address, and I'm probably not going to see it. And that's something I've found through testing as well. Whereas when you take them through a website experience and you talk a bit more, you've got some more real estate, and you say, enter your best email address, and make sure you whitelist us and things like that, you can communicate that better. So there's just something as a generalization that we've found, that running website leads generates better quality leads as well. So it's something for you to test as well. So Jay, I'll come back to your question. Calibration testing, I would use CBO, and I just let the budget run until I've hit my maximum number of impressions. So I don't.
So CBO stands for campaign budget optimization, and it's whenever you allow Meta to best optimize the use of your budget based on how ads are performing in their ad auction. Let's see what he says about that.
Don't really think about it too much. My question is, how much can I afford to spend on this test, and how quickly do I want results? So that's really the measure I'm using there. So Jay said,
My impression is he doesn't give a fuck. Um, for me, I think if you don't really give a fuck about which of your offers are selling, you just want to get a good return on ad spend. You just want to make profitable investment. You're not necessarily concerned about which of your offers are being moved right now, then that's always a great way to go. But whenever you're trying to push a certain product, you'll need to potentially get out of campaign budget optimization in order to. Well, one way you could do that is by manually optimizing your campaign budget in order to push a product, or the follow up way that you could do it is a different way, perhaps, is through the dynamic. I wonder if with the common thread collective idea of the dynamic ad pricing that would for SKU or for offer that they were talking about, if you implement like lower costs per items that you wanted to sell, if you kept the campaign budget optimization, if that would then, you know what I'm saying, work. But that is something that I myself have not tested yet, but now want to. So, all right, let's keep on.
Says if ad sets in the calibration campaign go into learning limited, does that affect the test negatively? I don't worry about learning limited because I'm not looking to scale up or doing anything. I have my set goal, 5,000 impressions.
Just to interrupt real quick, learning limited. So at the beginning of running an ad, it's you're in a learning limited phase where you don't scale the way the ad could scale because the ad is learning um, what your audience is going to be through the machine learning process of matching who is responding to you based on the data entered into it. Um, so fucking, there's always that phase. No matter what ad you put through, you're gonna have that phase temporarily. But some ads will come out of it pretty quick. If it comes out real fast, you know you got a great ad. Versus some ads, they get stuck in learning limited, and that's when you know you need to fix the quality of your ad, whether it be the messaging or the creative. Um, Typically. But yeah, let's keep seeing what he's saying about his impression.
Different campaign objectives. What's my CPM? What my other lead metrics look like? So I don't look at learning limited at all. Last.
And he's like, I don't give a fuck about that shit. And that's because the level he performs at, his ad messaging and ad quality are already going to be relatively top tier. So he doesn't really tend to get stuck in learning limited. So he's not worried about that. It would be a very off day for Depesh Mandalia's team, I think, if they got stuck in learning limited.
Last question on the calibration campaign, should I use 1 day or 7 day? I generally use 1 day and just kind of use that as a blanket across all of those as well. Cool. Well, I think we're done. So hopefully that made sense. I would love to know what you've taken away, share with me what's worked for you from improving your CPMs and what you're looking at. Post it in the group, happy to give you feedback and make sure you're on the right path. But I just wanted to make sure, especially because there's a lot of conversation happening about CPM right now. It is towards the end of March, and this is the typical time every single year that this happens, but it does happen in other quarters as well. Don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and scrap all the great stuff you've done over the last few months and stress out because the CPMs are high. Could be because of external factors, but make sure that you do understand what goes into causing higher CPMs and what's in your control to reduce them. So just to repeat, reducing CPM isn't the primary strategy when we go to run ads, but it's something we keep an eye on because reducing CPM, it can be harder. It's more, I wouldn't say it's harder, it's more time consuming than doing conversion rate optimization, rotating your ads, improving your landing page speed, etc.
I don't even think we talked about rotating your ads or changing your ads either. And with that, he's referring to people will get ad fatigue. So, um, even if you have a really good performing ad, people will stop running it temporary for periods of time and then put it back into rotation. Because if you just basically stop and start an ad or turn it on and off, you're still going to have all of those same metrics and results there. If you don't make any changes to the ads, it won't take away your previous good history with it. And then that will allow it to continue performing better when you turn it back on again. So when people have a very good ad that works, sometimes you have one great ad that works for 10, 20, 30, 50 fucking years. You don't need to change the damn thing, but you do have to make sure you don't cause ad fatigue with it, and you have to rotate how often you use it and not use it all the time because people do get tired of seeing the same thing too much. So typically you change ads at least quarterly um, in order to reduce ad fatigue, typically. Put that.
But it can have the biggest impact on improving your results. So just make sure you're at least considering what's in your control for CPM and understand that you guys have access to all of that in the BPM method, which, by the way, those sections on improving average order value, conversion rate, and costs, even right now, we use as a reference guide. So like the key thing about the BPM method is it's going to be rare that you've been through the whole training, you just understand it, and you're going to be able to apply everything at the right time. Use it as a reference system. Don't think that you have to go through it all at once and understand it all. Even my team right now, they're going back through the training on the Viper tests and then being able to reduce CPMs based on that, because now they need that for the use case for this particular two particular clients. And you know, that's how it's designed. So there are certain parts you will learn and kind of probably not visit again. There's other parts that you just keep referencing back. And like I say, that's the same operating system we use. And, you know, I'd encourage you to use it in a similar way as well. So hopefully that was useful. Have a great week, and we'll see you back online soon.
God damn it. Have I really been muted this whole fucking time? That is so fucking annoying. This is like the second time, or maybe third, that I've done it this live stream. So fucking annoying. Yay me. Good for me. Right? Okay, well, so if you're looking at this live stream, then you can potentially have read everything I've said. But if you are not looking at this live stream, then fucking, basically, I was saying I wish I knew all this shit earlier, and that's why the fuck I'm sharing it now. And I don't have it in me to repeat everything I fucking said before, so that's me recapping it. Sorry. Um, but yeah, this is really good shit in my opinion. So fucking after all of this, I'm gonna go fucking link the two videos we just watched in a video description. I'm gonna link some of the videos I've done before on marketing and sales funnel and return on investment. I might just link the playlist. Um, I think I'm just gonna link the playlist for that shit fucking in the video. Um, and all of that I think will be pretty helpful for you guys if you need any help. I'm just gonna link my marketing playlist up in there. But the TikTok live streams, particularly, and even the Instagram one that I did with Chad Weisky and Ron Tompkins, fucking with Chad, whatever. Fuck, the captioner didn't work. Anyway, fucking, I don't think that I said those names right, but that one's not a bad one to watch, but it's super rambly. Um, the one with Brandy Mims, aka Unique the Deaf Dancer, is a really good one for deaf issues, but it's not. It doesn't have too much on the marketing side. But the all of the other live streams that I have posted from TikTok right now, um, let me go double check. Those should all be. I'm going to look at my profile right now. Marketing related and relatively good shit for you to see. So for the one where it's called live streams from other platforms. I'm gonna link that. Um, because that one, I've got the marketing webinar from April 2021. If you want to watch it, you can. Honestly, that was one of the first live webinars I'd ever done, and I don't like it, but I put it out there because I like to see, how far I've come. Um, but yeah, fucking anyway, so everything from the marketing to sales funnel overview, the building relationships, connecting with community one, the how I put together my online store one, that one could potentially be helpful, but may not be as relevant to this live stream, but could be. The recording music versus ad account setup, the connecting content to purchases, is scaling business a scam, vertical versus horizontal ad scaling, and the feast and famine cycle overview live stream. Those are the ones that I think would be pretty helpful. So I probably will link those individually as well as some playlists after this, because I think all that shit will be good shit for you to see if you are interested, or if you didn't understand some of what was happening in this live stream. This is all shit that will have explained where it's already been discussed and covered. um so yeah, because this is taking all of that to the next level. Fucking yeah. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm also gonna try to remember to link Khan Academy up in this bitch. We're about to roll the outro. Speaking of ad fatigue, that's part of why I need to go, like, getting tired of this content. Like, I really need to record some new shit. So I need to figure out, like, data management, content creation, schedule, life, all of that. But it's going to come together eventually, and we're learning together. So, but yes, thank you for your time. Oh, let's see here. Did I do everything I said I was going to do in the beginning of the live stream before I hang up on you guys? So we compared and we contrasted, Depesh Mandalia. Oopsie, I'm clicking shit. I don't mean to be clicking right now. Um, we compared and contrasted Depesh Mandalia versus Common Thread Collective. We looked at why I feel like both of these creators are people that I felt helped me elevate my marketing to the next level with understanding how to connect awareness to sales. We looked at the differences between these content creators and what I think you'll get different things from each of them. And I think the content kind of speaks for itself. Like, one thing I didn't say that I'm glad I stayed for is with the Depesh Mandalia, you can really see how his stuff can be applicable to be e-commerce, but a lot of it's also really good to all service. And like, his stuff is more versatile, whether you're e-commerce or lead generation, versus I feel like Common Thread Collective's main focus is e-commerce. So that can matter if you're thinking about where to put your investment. But for somebody who is just fascinated with learning all things related to marketing and sales, no matter the offer, or for anyone that's with e-commerce, I think doing Common Thread Collective, then Depesh Mandalia in your learning journey is a really good move to go. I'm just putting it out there. So, all right. Now I'm going to roll the outro. Peace out, bitches. You're not bitches. I'm sorry I said that. Thank you so much for being here. I really value you. You're amazing. Hope you have a good night. And yeah, I appreciate you. You know what? Actually, what if I don't think you're amazing, though? Because to be honest, I fucking hate when people act like they love everybody and blah, blah, blah. I don't love everybody. I hate some of you bitches. Let's just be real. But you know what? If I love you, you're amazing. And if I don't like you, suck my fucking dick, bitches. Alright. Have a great night. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. You might want to adjust the volume after all of this because a loud music is going to play. So yeah, adjust the volume. And then if you're coming to these lives anyway, I do have a loyalty program, nolodevchild.com/loyalty. If you sign up for my site as a member and you follow the check-in procedure, you can get points just for showing up to these lives anyway. So I just want to let you know about that. Yeah, I always have a really hard time saying goodbye because, saying goodbye really just kind of feels like you're Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Over here just like, well done, Wilson. But anywho, yeah, so thank you for being here and goodbye.